30 years without a single defeat and one trusted hand is all it takes to send the greatest captain on the western seas beneath the waves. Now that same man is 13 years old, barefoot, half-starved, and hauling clay water jars through a desert city where most people have never seen an ocean. Worse, every dog in the orphan quarter keeps following him because the boy permanently smells like salt water. See, before this miserable second life, Sahir Vaughn is known by another name, Captain Ronan Voss, commander of the Blackwake Fleet, and owner of a reputation so ridiculous that merchant princes change shipping seasons just to avoid crossing his route. For 3 decades, his ships never lose a naval battle, not once. Ronan survives hurricanes that split imperial warships in half, pirate coalitions that outnumber him 5-1, and sea monsters large enough to swallow an entire deck. His crew follows orders before he finishes giving them. His flagship, the Morning Tide, becomes such a nightmare along the western trade lanes that sailors start claiming the vessel itself refuses to sink. Turns out, the ship never gets the chance to prove them wrong. Ronan's first mate does. Silas Dre has served beside him for 17 years. He drinks at the captain's table. He holds command whenever Ronan sleeps. He even carries the second key to the fleet's sealed route archive, the collection of hidden currents, reef passages, smuggler channels, and seasonal winds that makes the Blackwake Fleet almost impossible to trap. Then the Sapphire Passage becomes worth more than loyalty. A newly discovered current cuts nearly 20 days from the southern spice route. Whoever controls it controls enough trade to make kings uncomfortable. Silas wants to sell the route. Ronan refuses. That should have ended the argument. Instead, it ends, Ronan. The attack comes during a midnight storm. No dramatic duel, no grand mutiny. Just a trusted man opening the captain's cabin, 3 officers already bought with merchant gold, and a blade pushed beneath Ronan's ribs before he can draw his saber. Brutal, efficient, almost respectable, if betrayal had standards. Silas expects rage. He gets calculation. Ronan sees the bloody dagger. He sees the positioning of the officers. He notices that none of the deckhands are present. Then he understands exactly how far the infection has spread. So the dying captain does the one thing Silas does not expect. He kicks open the stern window and throws himself into the storm. If Silas wants the route archive, he can search the corpse at the bottom of the sea for its final key. Black water swallows Ronan whole. Lightning splits the clouds above him. The morning tide disappears behind white waves. And as his lungs fill, the last thing the legendary captain hears is not thunder. It is bells. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Ship bells ringing far beneath the surface. Then everything goes dark. 13 years later, Sahir Vaughn carries water across the sun-baked streets of Qadira and wonders why the bells have started ringing again. The kingdom of Qadira sits almost 600 miles from the nearest coast. Its capital is built around 3 massive underground aquifers, and water ownership determines social rank almost as brutally as bloodline. Nobles control wells. Guilds control canals. Orphans control absolutely nothing. Sahir belongs to the Dust House, which is the polite name for a state orphan barracks that sells children's labor to whoever pays the overseer. Today, our boy is delivering water to the Hall of Callings. Every citizen undergoes a class awakening in their 13th year. Useful classes earn apprenticeships. Combat classes earn military sponsorships. Rare classes can drag a gutter child into nobility overnight. And useless classes? Those usually drag the child straight back to work. Sahir places the last jar beside the ceremonial basin. The priest conducting awakenings barely looks at him. The wealthy children go first. A sand lancer, an ember scribe, a glass alchemist. Each result earns applause from waiting families. Sahir stands alone near the rear wall, his faded robe still damp where one jar leaked against his hip. Nobody is waiting for his result. That suits him perfectly. 13 years in a new body have not erased Ronan Voss. They have simply taught the old captain patience. He knows no ship is coming to rescue him in the middle of a desert. He knows the Blackwake Fleet belongs to another lifetime. And until this morning, he assumes the strange smell of seawater clinging to his skin is just some leftover scar from dying. Then the ceremonial basin whispers his old name, Ronan. Sahir's eyes shift toward it. The water is completely still. Again, Ronan. No one else reacts. Interesting. The priest finally gestures him forward. Sahir presses one palm against the awakening stone. For a heartbeat, nothing happens. Then every drop of water inside the hall turns black. People scream. The ceremonial basin overflows despite holding barely enough water to cover a man's hand. Clay jars crack. Moisture crawls from the walls. Even sweat lifts from the priest's forehead in tiny, trembling beads. All of it moves towards Sahir. A cold interface stirs behind his eyes, class awakening complete. Necromancer. Affinity unresolved. The priest goes pale. Necromancers exist in Qadira. They are uncommon, unpleasant, and mostly employed to animate dead labor animals or interrogate corpses for the royal courts. Useful, feared, hardly legendary, but the interface does not stop. A second line forms, then breaks apart. The system tries again. Affinity detected. No recognized category. Another pulse hits. Sahir hears waves. Not imaginary waves. Real ones. Heavy water rolling against timber. Ropes creaking. Canvas snapping in wind. Then voices explode through his skull. Hundreds at first. Thousands after that. Men shouting coordinates. Women screaming prayers. Captains barking evacuation orders. Children crying inside flooded cabins. Sailors singing while water closes over their heads. Every voice comes from somewhere impossibly far away. Sahir grips the awakening stone. The hall vanishes from his perception. For one savage instant, he sees another world layered beneath this one. Not another dimension. Not exactly. An ocean. A bottomless black sea stretches underneath the desert floor as though the entire kingdom is floating above it. Ships drift through that darkness. Broken galleons. Burned warships. Merchant carracks split along their keels. Ancient vessels covered in coral. Ships from nations Sahir recognizes. Ships from nations Ronan remembers disappearing centuries before his birth. Every vessel that ever sinks still exists down there, and every dead sailor aboard them is still at his station. The vision nearly crushes him. Then a single bell rings louder than the rest. Deep, slow, familiar. Sahir's fingers tighten. No, that bell cannot exist here. He knows its exact pitch. He personally ordered the bronze recast after a cannonball cracked it during the Battle of Grey Cape, the Morning Tide, his flagship. A voice reaches him through the impossible sea, faint, broken, almost drowned by distance. Captain? Sahir stops breathing. The awakening hall rushes back into focus. People are staring at him. The basin has gone dry. The black water floating around his arm collapses onto the stone floor. A priest steps backward and mutters that something is wrong with the class crystal. Sahir says nothing. Across 13 years, through hundreds of miles of sand and one entire death, someone from his old crew has just recognized him. The system finally produces a readable result. Necromancer class confirmed. Exclusive affinity acquired Drowned Dominion. No registered skill tree available. No known upper limit detected. Our necromancer lowers his hand. That last sentence matters. Systems classify known powers by comparing them against recorded awakenings. If no skill tree exists, then either Sahir has awakened something genuinely new, or something old enough that the world has forgotten it. Neither option is safe to advertise. The priest orders another test. Sahir deliberately gives him nothing. He touches the stone again and suppresses the pull instinctively, the same way Ronan once eases pressure from a sail before a dangerous gust. The crystal produces only the ordinary necromancer classification. There, boring, manageable, disappointing enough to survive. The priest relaxes immediately. A clerk marks Sahir for municipal corpse labor. Our boy almost smiles. People remain remarkably easy to steer when given the answer they already wanted. But as he turns away, his bare heel steps on something wet. One tiny puddle sits on the floor. Impossible in this heat. Inside it rests a black shell no larger than his thumbnail. Sahir bends as though fixing his sandal and palms the thing. The shell carries a symbol carved into its surface, 3 hooked waves around a hollow circle. He does not recognize it. Ronan knew the flags, seals, pirate brands, naval crests, and merchant marks of nearly every power touching the Western Ocean. This belongs to none of them. He slips it into his sleeve. The detail goes into the same mental compartment where every good captain keeps an unexplained current or a star that appears where no star should be. Useful later, dangerous now. Outside, the heat hits like an open furnace. The dust house overseer is waiting beside a donkey cart. Master Hadram is a narrow man with jeweled rings, soft hands, and the permanent expression of someone disappointed that other human beings require food. He looks at Sahir's classification slip. Necromancer. Not a question. Sahir nods. Hadram's disappointment turns into calculation. Qadira's graveyards are expensive, so are mine collapses. A child who can move corpses can replace paid labor. There it is. The first enemy of Sahir's new life is not a dark lord. It is accounting. Hadram grabs his shoulder. You'll report to the Eastern Ossuary tonight. Sahir allows the hand to remain there. No training? The overseer snorts. For what? Tell dead men to stand. A simple answer. A stupid one. Sahir has buried enough sailors to know death rarely follows simple rules. Still, he climbs onto the cart. The bells beneath the world continue ringing. By sunset, Hadram brings him beyond Qadira's eastern wall to a burial trench cut into the red sandstone. The city disposes of unclaimed bodies here. Criminals, foreigners, workers without family. travelers who die crossing the dunes. The place smells of dust, lime, and old cloth. No salt, yet Sahir hears water. Hadram gives him a cheap bone rod and points toward a fresh corpse wrapped in linen. Raise that one. Our hero studies the body. No excitement, no fear. Just procedure. He once commanded 6,000 sailors through a cyclone by breaking the crisis into individual orders. A corpse is merely another unfamiliar vessel. He extends the rod. The standard necromancer instinct tells him to reach for residual death energy inside the bones. Sahir ignores it. Instead, he listens for the sea. Nothing. He adjusts. Not every dead person belongs to the ocean. Of course, that distinction matters. Then he notices another body near the trench wall. Older, sun-blackened. A sailor's knot is tied around one wrist. Interesting. Sahir walks toward it. Hadram snaps at him to return. The boy keeps moving. Around the corpse's neck hangs a corroded brass token stamped with the symbol of a coastal freight guild. This man died on land, but he once sailed. Sahir touches the token. The desert disappears. Cold water slams through his senses. A corpse on the trench floor jerks upright. Hadram falls backward. The dead sailor does not stand like an ordinary skeleton servant. He braces his feet as if a deck is rolling beneath him. One ruined hand reaches automatically toward a rope that is no longer there. Then his empty eyes turn toward Sahir. Captain? The word comes out as a wet rasp. Hadram hears it this time. His face drains white. Sahir does not look at him. The dead sailor is staring past Sahir now, toward the sandstone wall. Beyond it, down, far down. Our boy follows the direction. The impossible ocean beneath the world surges into his awareness again. This time, one vessel is close enough to see clearly. Not the morning tide, much smaller. A wrecked courier sloop with half its mast missing. Only 3 dead sailors remain aboard. Weak, damaged, incomplete, perfect. A quiet message burns across Sahir's mind. Drowned vessel detected. Command link possible. Range obstructed by 600 miles of land and stone. Then another line appears. Connection may be strengthened through remains of former crew, so that is the mechanism. The dead are anchors. Sailors connect to ships. Ships connect to the drowned sea. And somewhere in that world beneath the waves, his real fleet is waiting. Hadram scrambles toward the exit. He has seen too much. Sahir turns. The raised sailor moves before he gives a verbal command. One step. Then another. It blocks the overseer's path. Hadram freezes. Sahir studies the reaction carefully. The corpse understood intent without spoken instruction. Exactly like a veteran deckhand reading his captain during battle. That is far more valuable than brute strength. He walks past Hadram and kneels beside the dead sailor. Around the corpse's wrist, beneath the knot, is a faded tattoo. A ship's name. The Pale Finch. Sahir has never heard of it, but the wreck below responds the instant his fingers touch the letters. 3 ghostly lanterns ignite aboard the submerged sloop, one after another. A bell rings beneath 600 miles of desert. The dead sailor straightens, and for the first time since Ronan Voss drowns, a vessel answers his command. Sahir rises. He takes Hadram's water skin, empties it onto the burial stone, and presses his palm into the spreading water. The puddle turns black. Far beneath Kadira, the pale finch slowly rotates its broken bow toward him. Our captain lifts 2 fingers. The ghost vessel begins to sail. The pale finch moves beneath 600 miles of desert as though the sand above it weighs nothing. Sahir feels every damaged plank, every snapped rope, every dead hand still gripping a station it abandoned years ago. The connection is weak enough to flicker, but it is real. That alone changes everything. Master Hadram does not seem nearly as impressed. The overseer is still trapped between the trench wall and the corpse standing in front of him, and sweat is pouring down his face so badly that his expensive collar has gone completely dark. What did you do? Sahir lowers his hand. The puddle on the stone instantly returns to normal. Far below, the pale finch stops turning. The sensation vanishes. I raised a corpse. Hadram looks at the dead sailor blocking his escape. That thing spoke. Some corpses retain fragments. It is technically true, just nowhere near the whole truth. The overseer stares at him for several seconds, then greed manages to beat fear. Predictable. If Sahir can control dead workers better than ordinary necromancers, Hadram sees cheaper labor. If he can make corpses remember useful skills, the man sees profit. And people like Hadram become surprisingly brave whenever money stands between them and common sense. He straightens his robe. You'll raise 3 more. Sahir looks around the trench. Not tonight. Hadram's expression hardens. That wasn't a request. Our boy calmly picks up the cheap bone rod. Then he snaps it in half. Hadram goes silent. The raised sailor does not move. Sahir examines the broken pieces. Cheap camel bone. Poorly carved channels. Barely any retained death energy. He already understands the problem. Standard necromancers force movement through the corpse itself. Sahir's affinity works differently. He is not controlling dead flesh. He is commanding whatever remains tied to the sea. That means the corpse is only an anchor point, a doorway. Destroy the doorway, and the thing beyond it remains untouched. Interesting. Very interesting. He drops the broken rod. I'll need proper materials. Hadrim glances at the corpse again. What kind? Anything taken from drowned sailors. The overseer frowns. In Kadira? Sahir looks at him. You sell labor contracts to caravans, mines, graveyards, and execution yards. A pause. You can find dead sailors. Hadrim's eyes narrow. The boy should not know how his business works. Good. Let him wonder. Sahir steps past him and kneels beside the corpse of the sailor from the Pale Finch. He removes the brass guild token. The connection strengthens immediately. Not much, but enough. The dead man's body sways. Far below, the Pale Finch's 3 lanterns burn brighter. Our captain files away the result. Personal belongings matter. Identity matters. The stronger the bond between corpse and vessel, the stronger the command line. That is his first rule. He needs more. By midnight, Hadrim has no idea that Sahir is already testing the second. The dust house sleeps in rows of narrow stone chambers. Children share mats. Older workers sleep near the doors. The overseer keeps the valuable laborers in separate rooms to prevent escape. Sahir gets one because necromancers are considered dangerous after awakening. Convenient. He waits until the corridor becomes silent. Then he removes the Pale Finch token from beneath his shirt. The metal is cold, impossible in the desert. Sahir closes his eyes. No ritual, no bone rod, no chanting. He simply remembers command, deck assignments, wind checks, formation calls. The old instincts return like they have been sitting behind his ribs for 13 years, waiting for someone to unlock the door. His consciousness sinks. Darkness. Pressure. Then water. The drowned sea unfolds beneath him. The Pale Finch floats alone in black water. Its mast is snapped halfway up. A hole tears through the port side. The deck leans sharply. 3 dead sailors remain aboard. 1 stands at the wheel. 1 works a rope that no longer connects to anything. The 3rd sits against the mast with both hands around an invisible object. Sahir focuses. The world shifts. He is not physically standing aboard the ship. It feels more like looking through every dead sailor's eyes at once. Awkward. Disorienting. Useful. Inventory. Nothing happens. Of course, this is not some merchant game interface waiting to organize his problems, so Sahir does it himself. He studies the vessel. Cargo hold. Captain's cabin. Deck locker. Bilge. The Pale Finch is a courier sloop, not a warship. Fast hull. Light frame. Minimal storage. Exactly the kind of ship used to move letters, sealed documents, gemstones, diplomatic packages, and occasionally things too valuable to place inside larger convoys. Our captain directs the sailor at the wheel to release it. The corpse obeys instantly. Then he orders the second crewman toward the cargo hatch. The sailor walks. Slow. Stiff. But functional. Sahir follows through the connection. The hatch is jammed. The dead sailor pulls. Nothing. Again. Nothing. So Sahir changes the instruction. Not pull. Brace. Twist. Use the broken deck hook lying nearby. The corpse obeys. Wood cracks. The hatch opens. There. Undead bodies do not lack intelligence entirely. They lack initiative. Give them a broad command, and they repeat useless actions. Give them proper procedure, and they become tools. Ronan Voss spent decades turning frightened sailors into disciplined crews. Apparently, death does not change the fundamentals. Inside the hold lie 6 shattered crates. Most are empty. 1 contains rotted fabric. Another holds sealed ceramic tubes. Sahir's attention sharpens. He orders the sailor to retrieve one. The moment dead fingers close around the tube, something strange happens. The object becomes clearer, not visually, physically. Sahir can feel its weight through the connection. A notification appears quietly behind his eyes. Bonded vessel storage detected. Transfer unavailable. Anchor strength insufficient. So the ship can carry things, possibly real things. That changes the scale again. Sahir sits up on his sleeping mat. His breathing remains steady. His pulse does not. If the drowned vessels are merely undead summons, they are useful. If they can recover cargo from wrecks that vanished centuries ago, they are an economy. If they can eventually transfer that cargo into the living world, they are a kingdom. Our necromancer returns to the connection. He examines the ceramic tube. A seal remains stamped into one end. A bird surrounded by 9 stars. Unknown. Another strange symbol. Not the 3 hooked waves from the black shell. Different. Sahir leaves the tube sealed. Information first. Greed later. He searches the remaining hold. 2 iron grappling hooks. A copper compass that still points somewhere despite having no surviving needle. 3 sealed tubes. A small chest fused shut with green corrosion, and 1 weapon. A short naval crossbow. Ruined string. Cracked stock, but the metal mechanism remains intact. Sahir orders the seated corpse beside the mast to take it. The sailor does not respond. Again. Nothing. Interesting. He shifts attention toward that corpse. The sailor's hands remain closed around empty air. Sahir pushes deeper. A flash hits him. Fire. Screaming. A woman in a blue coat dragging a bleeding navigator across the deck. A huge black vessel appearing through fog, then a symbol painted on its sail, 3 hooked waves around a hollow circle. The same mark carved into Sahir's shell. The memory disappears. Our boy's eyes open. That is no coincidence. The pale finch did not simply sink. Someone attacked it. Someone carrying a mark Ronan Voss never encountered during 30 years at sea. And somehow, that same symbol reaches a burial trench in a kingdom hundreds of miles inland. He takes the black shell from his sleeve. Cold, wet, still smelling faintly of salt. Sahir places it against the pale finch token. The effect is immediate. The connection tears open. The drowned sea roars into his mind so violently that the room seems to tilt. Dozens of distant ship bells answer. Not thousands, only dozens. But that is enough. The shell is not an anchor to one vessel. It is a beacon. Sahir breaks contact instantly. His hand is shaking. Barely. He curls the fingers until it stops. So someone created objects capable of touching the drowned sea. And that someone was active long before Sahir awakened. Good. That is the kind of problem worth respecting. At dawn, Hadram arrives with 2 sacks. He throws them onto the floor. Metal clatters inside. Your materials. Sahir opens the first sack. Cheap sailor charms. Broken compass cases. Copper rings. Bits of rope. Most are worthless. Then he finds something better. A rusted brass whistle. The moment his thumb touches it, distant water whispers through the room. Anchor. Weak but genuine. He places it aside. The second sack contains bones. Hadram smiles. Foreigners from the old caravan cemetery. Sahir looks at him. How much did you pay? The overseer's smile disappears. Why? Because if you paid full price, you're stupid. Silence. One of the older dust house boys coughs to hide a laugh. Hadram's face turns red. Sahir continues sorting. The bones are dry. No connection. No salt. No ocean memory. Useless. He pushes the sack back. Return them. You asked for sailors. I asked for drowned sailors. Hadram leans closer. You work for me. Sahir finally looks up. No. The room becomes quiet. Hadram almost laughs. Excuse me? Sahir lifts the brass whistle. The city contract says awakened orphans with licensed classes receive specialist labor status. Hadram's eyes shift. There. A reaction. So Sahir guessed correctly. He does not know Qataran contract law. But he knows men like Hadram. If there were no legal distinction, the overseer would have laughed immediately. Instead, he hesitated. Our boy continues. Specialists get a separate wage ledger. Hadram says nothing. And municipal necromancer work requires hazard compensation. Still nothing. Which means you've been planning to keep my entire payment. The older children are listening now. Hadram notices. Bad. Public knowledge changes negotiations. He grabs Sahir by the collar. You think one class makes you clever? No. Sahir's voice remains flat. 30 years at sea did that. Hadram freezes. He has no idea what the sentence means. Perfect. Sahir gently removes the man's hand. Then he holds out the whistle. Bring me actual drowned remains. A beat. And I'll make you more money than every child in this building combined. That lands. Greed again. Always reliable. Hadram steps back. What do you need? Now the real work begins. Sahir asks for 3 things. First, access to the Eastern Ossuary records. Second, every personal item recovered from dead coastal travelers during the last 20 years. Third, a locked workspace with a basin large enough to hold 50 gallons of water. Hadram objects to the third. Water is expensive. Sahir expected that, so he offers a demonstration. By afternoon, they stand in an abandoned tannery behind the dust house. A stone vat sits in the center. Only 10 gallons of water fill the bottom. Enough. Sahir places the pale finch token inside, then the brass whistle. He touches the surface. Dark ripples spread. The connection opens. The pale finch appears below. 3 dead sailors wait. Sahir reaches toward the whistle first. A second vessel answers. Barely visible. Small. Half buried in black silt. He cannot identify the hull. 1 sailor. No mast. But the anchor holds. 2 vessels now. Our captain gives a simple command. Move toward each other. The pale finch responds immediately. The second wreck struggles. It crawls through the drowned water at less than walking speed. Still useful. Sahir keeps them moving until both vessels enter the same patch of darkness. Then he orders the Pale Finch crew to throw a line. The rope lands across the second wreck. A dead sailor ties it. Connection established. A message forms subordinate vessel linked through flagship command chain. Command cost reduced. Sahir's eyes narrow. There it is. Not individual summons. Fleet structure. His old specialty. He orders the Pale Finch forward. Both vessels move. The weaker ship no longer struggles. It follows. One anchor stabilizes another. Formation reduces command strain. Our hero almost laughs. The system did not give him a necromancer class. It gave a dead admiral access to logistics. That is much worse. He spends the next 6 days testing limits. Never all at once. Never where Hadram can understand the pattern. The first day, he proves personal objects can identify drowned sailors. The second, he discovers salt water doubles connection stability. The third, he learns that bones from ordinary land deaths do absolutely nothing for drowned dominion. The fourth, he finds that crew hierarchy survives death. A former boatswain can command lower-ranked drowned sailors without Sahir directly controlling each one. Massive. That means the fleet can scale. The fifth day reveals the first hard limit, distance. Every layer between Sahir and the drowned sea creates resistance. Stone is worse than sand. Dry heat is worse than night. Salt water dramatically reduces both penalties. The sixth day gives him something better than a limit, a loophole. Sahir pours a cup of brine into the tannery vat. Then he places the Pale Finch token inside. The water darkens. The ship becomes clearer. He adds a second cup, clearer again. Not because salt is magical, because seawater resembles the environment where the dead connection originates. Affinity improves through physical similarity. Our captain adjusts immediately. He does not need an ocean. He needs enough of an ocean to fool the boundary, so he starts manufacturing one. Salt is cheap in Qadira. Water is not. That makes the obvious solution expensive. Sahir chooses the less obvious one. He stops using full vats. Instead, he lines shallow clay trays with salt and adds only enough water to create a thin, reflective layer. Same surface, far less volume. Hadram thinks he is cutting costs. Sahir is building command stations. By the end of the week, 8 trays sit beneath the tannery floorboards. Each connects to a different drowned sailor artifact. Only 3 vessels answer properly. The Pale Finch, the mastless wreck, and a broad merchant barge called the St. Aura. Weak ships, damaged ships, nothing close to the Black Wake fleet. But our captain does not need strength yet. He needs infrastructure. He maps every responding vessel, assigns crew functions, tests command relay, measures how long contact remains stable before exhaustion begins. He even develops a simple rotation. 1 ship active, 2 resting, then switch. Necromantic strain drops by nearly half. Hadram sees only corpses becoming more responsive in the ossuary. The city clerks see productivity rising. Nobody sees a fleet forming beneath their feet, exactly as Sahir prefers. Then Master Hadram makes the mistake people like him always make. He gets impatient. A municipal foreman arrives at the dust house with a rush contract. A western irrigation tunnel has collapsed. 9 workers are dead inside. Removing the bodies will take days. Hadram offers Sahir before even asking him. The pay is enormous. Naturally, Hadram plans to keep most of it. Sahir accepts anyway. Not for the money, for the location. The western tunnel runs beneath the oldest quarter of Qadira. According to the ossuary records, Sahir has quietly been reading. The Foundation crews uncovered marine fossils there almost a century ago. Shells, coral, even fragments of timber. Inside a desert, most scholars call it evidence that the region was once ocean. Sahir suspects something more useful. The collapsed tunnel is narrow, hot, filled with dust. The foreman leads him past cracked support beams to the first corpse. Sahir touches the dead man's shoulder. Nothing. Land worker. Expected. Second corpse. Nothing. Third. Nothing. Then he hears dripping. The foreman says there is no groundwater in this section. Sahir keeps walking. At the deepest point, the tunnel wall has split open. A thin stream runs through the crack. 1 drop hits the stone. Sahir smells salt. His expression changes, just slightly. The foreman misses it. Hadram does not. What? Sahir kneels. He touches the wall? Not through a token, directly. Hundreds of ships appear. Dozens nearby. Some ancient beyond recognition. 1 enormous wreck lies beneath them all, buried under layers of black sediment. Its hull is carved with the 3-hooked wave symbol, the same one on the shell, the same one in the Pale Finch's final memory. And standing on that wreck's deck is something Sahir has not seen before, a corpse still wearing a captain's coat. Unlike the others, this dead man turns his head without receiving an order, slowly, deliberately. He looks directly through the connection, at Sahir. Then he raises one hand. Every nearby ghost vessel stops moving. The Pale Finch stops. The Saint Aura stops. Even the drowned sailors under Sahir's command freeze in place. For the first time since awakening, something inside the Dead Sea overrides him. The stranger opens his mouth. No sound crosses the distance, but Sahir reads the shape of the words perfectly. Wrong, Captain. Then the tunnel starts shaking. Hadram screams for everyone to run. Our necromancer stays exactly where he is. Not because he is shocked, because he is counting. 3 seconds between tremors. Pressure coming from below. Water rising through the crack. Someone or something is pushing against the boundary. Sahir pulls the black shell from his pocket. The symbol on its surface is glowing, so that is what it was for. Not a beacon, a key. The crack widens. Salt water pours through. The foreign captain beneath the world raises his second hand. 20 dead ships begin turning toward Qadira. Sahir closes his fingers around the shell. Then he does something Hadram absolutely cannot understand. He smiles. Not widely, just enough, because an enemy has finally shown him the location of the harbor. Sahir slams the shell against the stone wall and shatters it. The glowing symbol breaks into 3 pieces. The tremor stops. Every hostile vessel below jerks sideways as though its anchor line has been cut. Our captain immediately presses the Pale Finch token into the saltwater crack. Advance. 3 weak ships answer. The Pale Finch moves first. The mastless wreck follows. The Saint Aura takes the rear. Tiny, broken, almost pathetic beside the 20 hostile vessels ahead. Perfect. Every fleet begins somewhere. Sahir rises while salt water spreads around his feet. Behind him, Hadram is begging him to leave before the tunnel collapses. Our boy ignores him. He takes a piece of charcoal from the foreman's tool belt and draws 3 small ship marks on the tunnel wall. 1 ahead, 2 behind. A basic wedge formation. The same formation Ronan Voss uses in his first naval victory more than 40 years ago. Below the desert, the dead ships copy it. For the first time, Sahir is no longer merely listening to the ocean's dead. He is organizing them. And somewhere in the darkness, beyond his 3 pathetic vessels, an unknown captain has just realized that a new fleet is sailing. The first hostile ship reaches the Pale Finch in complete silence. No cannon fire, no shouted orders. No wind in the sails, just 2 dead vessels sliding across a black ocean buried beneath hundreds of miles of desert. Then the enemy rams. The impact travels straight through Sahir's command link. His knees almost buckle. Up in the irrigation tunnel, Master Hadram mistakes that single movement for fear. Boy! Sahir raises 1 hand. Quiet. The overseer actually obeys. Below them, the Pale Finch's damaged hull twists sideways. 3 drowned sailors stumble across the deck. The attacking vessel is larger, a narrow military cutter. 6 dead crew. Iron reinforcement along the bow. Its sails carry the same 3 hooked waves surrounding a hollow circle. The strange captain on the massive wreck has not moved. He is watching. Good. Sahir prefers opponents who reveal their habits before revealing their strength. The enemy cutter pulls back. It prepares to ram again. Our captain studies the angle. Too direct. No attempt to flank. No attempt to disable the rudder. No attempt to pin the Pale Finch against the mastless wreck. Whoever controls these vessels understands aggression, not naval warfare. That difference matters. Sahir shifts 2 fingers. The Pale Finch turns late. Painfully late. Its damaged rudder responds slower than he expects. The enemy cutter clips the stern instead of hitting center mass. Wood explodes. 1 drowned sailor goes overboard. Sahir feels the command thread vanish instantly, not die. Disconnect. Interesting. The corpse disappears beneath the black water. 3 seconds later, a weak signal returns from below, so drowned crewmen can fall overboard without being permanently lost. Another rule. He stores it away. The cutter swings around. Sahir moves the Saint Aura. The merchant barge is broad, slow, and about as elegant as a brick. Perfect. He places it directly between the cutter and the Pale Finch. The enemy rams again. This time the Saint Aura absorbs everything. Its front railing shatters. The hostile cutter buries its reinforced bow deep into the merchant vessel's side and gets stuck. There. Sahir's eyes sharpen. He gives the mastless wreck its first useful combat order. Board. The single sailor aboard it pushes off the ruined deck. Not jumps. Pushes. The corpse sails through the dark water like gravity has forgotten what it is supposed to do. It lands on the enemy cutter. The hostile crew reacts immediately. 3 turn. 1 draws a rusted boarding axe. Another grabs the intruder. The third drives a broken knife straight through its chest. The mastless sailor keeps moving. Of course it does. Our necromancer watches carefully. Normal undead combat revolves around durability. Drowned sailors are different. These corpses are not physical bodies in Sahir's world. They are preserved echoes of people who died aboard their ships. Damage matters only if it disrupts the memory holding them together. The knife means nothing. But when the hostile sailor tears the mastless crewman's old captain badge from his coat, the reaction is immediate. The corpse flickers, its command thread weakens, identity again. Personal anchors do more than strengthen summoning. They stabilize the dead themselves. That gives Sahir his second major rule. Destroy the memory. Destroy the sailor. The enemy crew already knows this, which means whoever controls them has been fighting in the drowned sea far longer than Sahir has. The strange captain finally moves. One finger. That is all. The enemy crew stops trying to stab Sahir's border. Instead, they grab at its clothing, searching. Smart. They are looking for the anchor. Sahir immediately orders retreat. The mastless sailor dives overboard. One hostile corpse catches its sleeve. Fabric tears. The old brass badge remains attached. Connection stabilizes. Sahir exhales once. Close. Too close. He had entered this fight assuming tactical skill alone would compensate for inferior forces. That assumption is now dead. Good. Better to lose an assumption than a ship. The tunnel trembles again. Not from collapsing stone, from the pressure below. The stranger is strengthening the boundary. Saltwater pours faster through the crack. Foreman Talim, the municipal engineer supervising the collapsed tunnel, finally decides he has tolerated enough impossible nonsense for one afternoon. He grabs Sahir's shoulder. We are leaving. Sahir looks at the man's hand, then at the tunnel. How old is this section? Talim stares at him. What? The masonry. This isn't the time. How old? The foreman hesitates. 212 years. Original construction? No. Older foundation beneath it. How much older? Talim's face changes. That question has clearly touched something uncomfortable. Hadrim notices too. Sahir waits. Finally, Talim mutters, nobody knows. There it is. Why? The foreman lowers his voice. Because the first excavation records were sealed by the palace. Sahir looks back at the saltwater crack. A buried maritime structure. An unknown symbol. Royal records sealed. And a dead captain capable of commanding ghost vessels beneath a landlocked kingdom. This is no random supernatural accident. Someone in Qadira knows this place exists. Maybe not what it truly is, but enough to hide it. Sahir recalibrates. Until now, his plan is simple. Build strength quietly, collect drowned anchors, find a path back to the sea, eventually locate the morning tide. That timeline is no longer sufficient. If Qadira sits above a known access point into the drowned ocean, leaving blindly could mean abandoning the single best harbor he has. Worse, somebody else is already using it. The old captain changes priorities immediately. He needs the tunnel. He needs the sealed records. And before either of those, he needs to survive the next 5 minutes. Below, the hostile cutter finally tears itself free from the Saint Aura. Its hull turns toward the Palefinch again. 2 more enemy vessels are moving now. A cargo brig, a burned patrol ship, 11 additional dead sailors. Sahir controls 7 crew across 3 wrecks. Those numbers are terrible. So he stops treating them as numbers. Ships are terrain, crews are mechanisms, water is movement, and formations exist precisely because equal strength is a luxury commanders rarely receive. The Palefinch retreats, the hostile ships follow, exactly what Sahir wants. He sends the merchant barge sideways, not toward the enemy, toward a field of half-sunken wreckage 30 yards away. The Saint Aura crashes through the remains of an ancient galley. Broken mast sections roll loose, chains lift from the seabed. The enemy cutter pushes forward anyway. Aggressive, predictable. Sahir sends the Palefinch between 2 wrecks. The cutter follows. Its reinforced bow clears the gap. Its wider stern does not. A hanging anchor chain catches around the rear mast. The ship jerks sideways. One hostile sailor falls. Another loses position. Sahir immediately sends the Saint Aura across the cutter's path. The merchant barge slams broadside into it. Not enough to destroy the enemy vessel. Enough to pin it. Then the mastless wreck arrives. Its lone sailor boards again. This time Sahir gives a precise instruction. Not attack. Search. The corpse ignores the hostile crew. It tears open coats, checks belts, rips pendants from necks. The enemies converge. One smashes an axe through its shoulder. Another bites into its face. Our captain does not care. The boarder finds a small silver disc hanging beneath the enemy helmsman's shirt. 3 hooked waves. Hollow circle. Anchor. Sahir gives one order. Break it. The corpse crushes the disc between both hands. The helmsman vanishes. No scream. No dramatic explosion. One moment it exists. The next, its shape collapses into black seawater. The enemy cutter instantly loses steering. Sahir smiles. There it is, a weakness, not universal. Not yet, but testable. He turns the Palefinch around. Now he attacks. The courier sloop slips past the disabled cutter. Its remaining sailors throw hooked lines. They catch the cargo brig moving behind it. Sahir feels command strain spike. 2 ships. 3 separate boarding actions. 7 crew. His vision blurs. Blood runs from one nostril. Up in the tunnel, Hadram sees it. Stop! Sahir wipes the blood away with his wrist. No, he has finally found the edge. That matters more than pain. The system speaks quietly, command load exceeding current vessel authority. Current vessel authority, not mana, not necromantic energy. Authority. That wording is extremely specific. Sahir focuses on it. A second message forms. Fleet hierarchy incomplete. Flag command absent. Flag command. His pulse changes. The pale finch is functioning as the center of his tiny formation because he chose it first. But it is not a flagship. The system recognizes the difference. So somewhere inside Drowned Dominion exists an actual fleet hierarchy. And if hierarchy exists, rank can be increased. He has no idea how. Yet, the hostile brig closes in. Sahir pulls back before greed becomes stupidity. He orders all 3 vessels to disengage. The strange captain across the drowned sea lifts his hand again. This time the enemy ships stop pursuing. Unexpected. Sahir watches. The dead captain turns toward the enormous wreck beneath him. Then he strikes the deck once with the heel of his boot. A bell rings, deep, ancient. Every hostile vessel rotates away from Sahir simultaneously, not retreating, returning. The message is obvious. This was not an attempt to destroy him. It was a test. The stranger wanted to see whether Sahir could command. Our captain understands because he has done the same thing to junior officers more times than he can remember. Apply pressure. Watch decisions. Measure discipline. Then decide whether the person is useful. The dead stranger lifts 2 fingers toward his eyes, then points at Sahir, watching. After that, the connection collapses. The drowned sea disappears. The tunnel returns. Sahir nearly falls. This time Talim catches him. The boy's skin is freezing. In a desert tunnel, Hadram looks terrified. What was that? Sahir glances at the water still leaking through the crack. Competition. That answer somehow makes Hadram look worse. Good. Fear can be managed. Curiosity is harder. Sahir stands upright. Then he studies the cracked wall. He cannot keep this access point exposed. Someone from the city will notice salt water. Someone will report it. Eventually the palace may arrive. He needs control before that happens. Talim, the foreman, looks at him. How quickly can you seal this section? Seal it? Collapse the outer corridor. Hadram nearly chokes. Are you insane? Sahir ignores him. Talim studies the supports. An hour. Make it look accidental. Now the foreman stares. Why would I do that? Sahir points toward the 9 dead workers farther up the tunnel. Because the official report currently says unstable masonry killed them. Talim's jaw tightens. And? If inspectors enter this chamber, they find salt water where no aquifer exists. Silence. They investigate. Talim says nothing. They reopen every construction record tied to this tunnel. That lands. The foreman's eyes move away. Sahir already knows. There is something in those records Talim does not want reopened. Maybe corruption. Maybe illegal shortcuts. Maybe something worse. It does not matter. A useful pressure point does not require full understanding. Our hero continues. Seal this corridor, and the collapse remains a construction tragedy. Hadram slowly realizes what Sahir is doing. The 13-year-old is blackmailing a municipal foreman using information he learned less than 5 minutes ago. Talk about adapting quickly. Talim exhales. 1 hour, 30 minutes, impossible. 45, the man curses. Fine. Sahir walks toward the dead workers. Hadram follows. What about the bodies? That's why you brought me. Our necromancer cannot use Drowned Dominion on land workers, but his base necromancer class still exists. Weak, crude, untrained, perfect camouflage. He kneels beside the first corpse. This time he follows the ordinary necromantic instinct. Death energy gathers slowly, painfully slowly. The man's fingers twitch, then the corpse sits up. Hadram stares. That is what he expected to see at the ossuary. A standard undead laborer, no voices. No salt water, no impossible fleet. Sahir raises all 9 workers one at a time. The effort is irritatingly inefficient compared with commanding drowned sailors, but that inefficiency becomes useful. Anyone examining him will see a mediocre young necromancer struggling to animate basic corpses. Exactly the identity he wants. The 9 undead workers carry broken stone from the tunnel. They move support beams. They retrieve tools. And while everyone watches the corpses, Sahir quietly collects 3 objects from the saltwater crack. A splinter of black timber, a rusted nail, and a single strand of blue rope trapped inside the stone. All 3 are wet. All 3 carry the drowned sea's cold. He hides them beneath his robe. The black timber reacts strongest. The instant Sahir touches it, a new sensation appears. Not a vessel, a direction. West, far beyond Qadira, then north, then down. The signal changes too quickly to map, but it is unmistakably searching for something. Sahir releases it. Cheat codes are only advantages when the user respects the parts he does not understand. He will test the timber later, not here. By nightfall, the tunnel chamber no longer exists. Talum brings down the outer supports. Stone crashes inward. Dust fills the passage. The saltwater crack disappears behind several tons of sandstone. Officially, the western irrigation tunnel is declared unsafe. The dead workers are recovered. Families receive compensation. Hadram gets paid. Talum keeps inspectors away from his older records. Everyone leaves satisfied, which usually means Sahir has missed something. He returns to the dust house after midnight. Instead of sleeping, he enters the hidden tannery workspace. 8 shallow salt trays wait beneath the floor. He places the 3 new objects beside them. The blue rope responds to nothing. The rusted nail produces a faint image of a ruined deck. The black timber produces a pulse. Once. Twice. Then every tray turns black simultaneously. Sahir freezes. The pale finch appears beneath him. The Saint Aura. The mastless wreck. All 3 ships are intact, but none of their crews are looking at Sahir. They are looking west. Something is coming through the drowned sea. Slowly. A shape larger than any vessel Sahir has seen since awakening. His heartbeat accelerates despite himself. For one impossible second, he thinks it might be the morning tide. It is not. This ship has no masts. Its deck is armored in overlapping plates. Dozens of chains trail beneath the hull. And carved across its bow is the 3-wave symbol, the hostile faction. The vessel stops outside the range of Sahir's fleet. One figure stands at the front, not the strange captain from the buried wreck, someone else. A drowned woman wearing the remains of a navigator's coat. She lifts one hand, then throws something across the black water. It lands aboard the Pale Finch, a small brass cylinder, the same kind used by old naval fleets to carry sealed orders. Sahir does not touch it physically. He directs the Pale Finch's sailor to retrieve it. The moment the corpse does, writing burns across the cylinder. Not Qadiran, not any modern naval script. Ronan recognizes the language anyway. Old Varick signal code, a naval cipher extinct for almost 200 years. That should be impossible. Sahir translates it piece by piece. 3 words. Bring the key. Then a second line appears. The Salt Throne remembers Voss. Sahir's expression finally changes. Not much, but enough. Voss. His old name. No one in this life knows it. No one should. The drowned navigator turns away. The armored vessel disappears into the black distance. Our captain remains motionless for several seconds. Then he takes the black timber in one hand and the broken pieces of the shell in the other. His original plan changes again. He is no longer searching only for his fleet. Something beneath the ocean already knows exactly who he is. And apparently, it has been waiting longer than he has. Sahir pulls a sheet of stolen accounting paper from beneath the floorboards. He draws Qadira, the collapsed tunnel, the 3 vessels under his command. Then he adds a 4th mark far to the west. Not a ship. A question. Beside it, he writes one name, Salt Throne. After that, our captain begins preparing for his first expedition. The first thing Sahir needs for an expedition is money. The second is mobility. The third is someone Hadram cannot order around. Unfortunately, the dust house provides none of those things. So our captain starts with the one resource he already controls, dead ships. Over the next 12 days, the abandoned tannery becomes something completely different. Hadram still believes the place is a workshop for corpse training. Municipal clerks occasionally stop by and see 3 animated laborers lifting crates, repairing masonry, or dragging damaged equipment. Exactly what a young necromancer should be doing. Under the floorboards, however, Sahir is building a harbor. 24 shallow clay trays now cover the hidden basement. Each contains barely an inch of brine. Copper wire connects the trays through small nails hammered into the floor. Bits of drowned belongings rest at their centers. A ring, a belt buckle, 2 sailor whistles, a broken navigational lens, 3 brass identification discs. The Pale Finch token remains in the central tray. Sahir discovers that arrangement matters. Randomly placed anchors create overlapping command noise. Ships drift into one another's signals. Crew instructions arrive late. But when he positions the trays according to relative vessel placement in the drowned sea, the interference drops sharply. So he does what Ronan Voss once did every morning aboard the Morning Tide. He makes a chart, not of land, of ghosts. The Pale Finch becomes the center. The Saint Aura sits to the south. The mastless wreck, which Sahir finally identifies as the Relin, holds west. 2 newly discovered fishing vessels fill the eastern edge. A river transport called Mercy's Debt occupies the rear. 6 ships, 19 drowned sailors, still pathetic by the standards of Ronan's old fleet. But 6 is enough to create structure. And structure creates multiplication. The first breakthrough comes when Sahir stops commanding every sailor personally. The drowned man linked to the Palefinch's brass token was once named Garin Pell. Sahir learns this by searching the old freight registry. Hadram reluctantly acquires for him. Garin served as senior deckhand. Not an officer. Not even important enough to appear in most port records. Yet every time Sahir gives the Palefinch a broad maneuver order, Garin is the corpse that positions the others correctly. That makes him useful. Sahir tests the behavior. He points the Palefinch toward a submerged wreck field. Navigate through. Previously, each dead sailor waits for individual instruction. This time Sahir directs only Garin. The drowned deckhand turns. He grabs the wheel. Then he slams one fist against the railing twice. The other 2 crewmen move instantly. One adjusts the remains of the foresail. The second braces near the damaged stern. The Palefinch turns through the wreckage without Sahir issuing another order. Our captain's eyes narrow. There. Companion is perhaps too generous a word. Garin is dead. Half his face is missing. And he has spoken exactly one useful word since Sahir raised him. Still, the corpse has initiative. More importantly, it has habits. Sahir assigns Garin temporary bosun authority. The system responds almost immediately. Subordinate command recognized, drowned retainer function established. Garin's outline changes, barely. The torn freight worker clothing around his body darkens into the faded remains of a deck coat. A length of spectral rope appears around one shoulder. His movements become smoother, not alive. Never that, but less like a corpse remembering work and more like a sailor still expecting a shift change. Then Garin does something Sahir never orders. He walks to the Palefinch's damaged stern. He examines the shattered railing and starts repairing it. The materials come from surrounding wreckage, a plank from one vessel, 3 nails from another, a strip of dead canvas. Sahir watches in silence. The repair is ugly, completely unacceptable by Blackwake standards, but functional. By the following night, the Palefinch's steering response improves by nearly a quarter. That is the moment Sahir stops thinking of Garin as merely an anchor. The drowned sailor can maintain the fleet, maybe eventually organize it. A captain without officers commands a ship. A captain with officers commands an ocean. The next breakthrough is even better. The sealed ceramic tubes recovered from the Palefinch finally open, not in the living world. Sahir has Garin crack one against the deck. Inside is a tightly rolled sheet of treated vellum. Most ink has survived. The document is a cargo authorization written in a coastal dialect almost 160 years old. It lists dates, port codes, cargo weights, and shipping routes. Sahir reads the destinations twice. 3 no longer exist. 1 became part of a neighboring kingdom. The final destination is still active, a trading city called Damas Reach. More importantly, Damas Reach lies only 8 days west of Qadira by caravan, not on the coast, but much closer to it. The document proves something Sahir desperately needs. The drowned sea preserves information. Not just bodies, not just ships, records, maps, cargo logs, military orders. Potentially centuries of lost knowledge sitting inside wrecks nobody in the living world can reach. Our necromancer has been looking at his fleet as military power. That was too narrow. The dead ocean is also an archive. And archives can buy armies before armies ever need to fight. He takes the ceramic tube to Hadram the next morning. Not the original. A copied version. Our boy is not insane. Hadram reads the cargo authorization and looks confused. What am I supposed to do with this? Find someone who buys old shipping records. The overseer laughs. Paper, information. From a ship that sank a century ago? Sahir says nothing. Hadram stops laughing. 3 days later, a collector from the Merchant Cartographers Guild pays enough silver for the copied route document to cover the Dusthouse's monthly food expenses twice over. Hadram nearly injures himself trying not to look excited. Sahir lets him keep 1/3. The man stares. You're giving me this? No. Our captain slides the remaining coins into a small lockbox. I'm paying you. For what? Access. Hadram's greed pauses. To what? The dead. That is how the network begins. Hadram has spent years buying labor contracts from graveyards, prisons, caravan houses, and municipal offices. He knows undertakers, execution clerks, salvage dealers, caravan masters, temple custodians. People who handle things respectable citizens prefer not to think about. Sahir converts every one of those relationships into a search system. He pays small commissions for objects recovered from anyone known to have sailed. Nothing dramatic, no ancient relic requests. No suspicious questions about ghost ships, just ordinary belongings. Buttons, coins, tools, knives, boot buckles, prayer beads, cheap jewelry, objects nobody values. Hadram loves the arrangement because he believes Sahir is discovering unusual corpse animation techniques. The more anchors he collects, the more valuable the boy becomes. So the overseer invests. He hires 2 runners. Then, 4. He bribes a clerk at the Western Caravan Registry. He purchases access to an old storage room beneath the Eastern Cemetery. He even pays a coastal merchant to send crates of unidentified sailor effects inland. Every coin Hadram spends tightens the rope around his own involvement, Sahir notices. Of course he does. If authorities eventually ask why a 13-year-old necromancer acquired dozens of drowned artifacts, every trail leads first to Master Hadram. The overseer believes he is building a profitable monopoly. In reality, he is volunteering to become the visible owner of Sahir's supply network. Convenient. By the end of the month, the hidden fleet reaches 11 vessels, 38 crew. 3 can move independently under subordinate leadership. 2 are useless for combat but excellent for storage. 1 fishing schooner has an intact cargo winch. The St. Aura becomes a supply platform. The Palefinch becomes a command relay. And Garenpel changes again. It happens during a routine recovery operation. A wreck called the Golden Marrow lies half buried under collapsed rigging. Sahir sends 3 crew to retrieve its cargo manifest. The deck gives way. 2 drowned sailors fall into the hold. A beam traps Garen beneath the shoulder. Sahir begins issuing extraction instructions. Garen ignores the first one. That alone gets Sahir's attention. The drowned bosun pushes the trapped sailor beside him toward the opening first. Then he uses the spectral rope around his shoulder to loop the broken beam. He braces, pulls. The rope tightens with an unnatural blue glow. The beam shifts. Both sailors escape. Only afterward does Garen climb out. Sahir did not order any of it. The interface stirs drowned, retainer behavior stabilized, command interpretation improved, bosun trait awakened. No dramatic transformation, no sudden legendary sword, just judgment. Exactly what a fleet officer needs. Our captain gives Garen more authority the same night. He assigns 3 vessels to the dead sailor permanently. Command strain drops again. 11 ships now feel like 6. That matters because Sahir is approaching the edge of Kadira's influence. The Merchant Cartographers Guild returns. This time they do not send a collector. They send Deputy Factor Maresh Anvar. Maresh wears desert silk, carries no visible weapon, and arrives at the dust house with 2 bodyguards who never stop scanning exits. Hadram nearly bends himself in half, greeting the man. Sahir keeps sorting brass tokens. Maresh places the copied Palefinch document on the table. Where did you find this? In a dead man's effects. Which dead man? I don't know. Hadram immediately opens his mouth. Sahir looks at him once. The overseer closes it. Maresh notices. Interesting. The deputy factor sits opposite Sahir. This route notation hasn't been used for over a century, so I was told. You can read it. A little. That is false. Ronan could read 6 naval ciphers before his 25th birthday. Maresh slides another paper across the table. A copied symbol. 3 hooked waves around a hollow circle. Sahir does not move. Do you recognize this? No. Another lie. Maresh watches his eyes. Sahir lets him. The man finally folds the paper. The guild pays very well for documents bearing this mark. Why? Because nobody knows who used it. Now Sahir is listening. Maresh continues. It appears on wreck manifests, insurance disputes, missing caravan cargo, and old naval reports. Caravan cargo? In the desert. Sahir pauses. Ships sink in deserts now? Maresh smiles faintly. Apparently, that answer is too controlled. The deputy factor knows more. Not enough to explain everything. Enough to be cautious. He places a silver coin on the table. Not Qataran currency. The coin carries a lighthouse on one side. On the other, the same 3-wave symbol. This was found 70 years ago beneath a collapsed well in the southern district. Sahir reaches for it. Maresh covers the coin with 2 fingers. Information first. Our boy leans back. You came to me. A long silence. Then Maresh laughs once. Not mockingly. Almost approvingly. Fine. He removes his hand. Sahir touches the coin. Cold. Salt. A command pulse snaps through him, much stronger than the shell. Not a simple anchor, something else. For half a second, he sees a stone chamber filled with seawater. Rows of chains descend into darkness. A circular platform rises above them, and carved into the floor is one phrase in ancient Varic. The fleet below serves the crown above. The vision disappears. Sahir releases the coin. His expression remains neutral. Inside, every assumption rearranges itself. The Salt Throne may not be a location. It may be an institution, a command authority, possibly one that predates modern kingdoms. Maresh studies him. Anything? Cold metal. The deputy factor looks disappointed. Good. Sahir slides the coin back. Where was the well? Sealed. Where? Maresh smiles. Bring me another marked document. Then he stands. A negotiation. Fine. Sahir respects those more than threats. By evening, Hadram is furious. You could have sold him more. No. He offered guild rates. No. We could be rich. Sahir finally looks up from the anchor ledger. You already are becoming rich. Not rich enough. There it is. The same disease that killed Ronan Voss. Not betrayal. That comes later. The disease is believing one more route, one more shipment, one more advantage can never be enough. Hadram starts pushing harder. He doubles the artifact purchases. He takes loans against dusthouse contracts. He pays smugglers to search old coastal warehouses. He orders his runners to stop asking permission before buying drowned effects. And when one cemetery clerk refuses to sell personal belongings from registered graves, Hadram bribes the man's assistant to steal them. Sahir learns about that within a day. He says nothing. Yet. The network is expanding faster than he wants, but faster means more anchors. More anchors mean more ships. Within 3 weeks, the fleet reaches 18 vessels, 64 drowned sailors, 1 functioning ballista, 3 cargo ships, 4 fishing craft, 2 patrol cutters, 6 miscellaneous transports, the Pale Finch, and 1 vessel Sahir immediately isolates from the others. The Winter Crow, a military dispatch ship sunk 93 years ago. Its hull remains nearly intact. Its captain's cabin still contains sealed naval dispatches. More importantly, its dead commander retains enough identity to resist Garen's authority. The first time Sahir boards through the connection, the corpse draws a saber. It does not attack. It simply refuses to kneel. Garen steps forward. The 2 dead sailors stare at one another. Then Garen reaches up and removes the spectral rope from his shoulder. He drops it at the commander's feet. A sailor's gesture. Not submission, challenge. The Winter Crow's captain looks down. Then at Sahir. Finally, he lowers the saber. Sahir has no idea what exact custom just passed between them. Ronan recognizes the meaning anyway. Rank must be earned aboard a ship, even after death. The commander accepts Sahir's authority only when Sahir restores the Winter Crow's broken signal mast and returns its original captain, Seal, recovered from a Qataran pawnshop 3 generations after the man's death. The moment the Seal touches the drowned deck, the ship's lanterns ignite. Fleet authority rises, command capacity expands. And for the first time, Sahir can sense vessels beyond his previous range without direct anchors. Hundreds of faint signals appear, then disappear, too distant, but real. He is growing. So is the world reacting to him. Caravan rumors start spreading. Undead laborers from the dust house work more efficiently than normal corpse servants. Old maritime records are suddenly valuable. Coastal trinkets once sold for copper now fetch silver in Qadira. Graveyard theft increases. Merchant guilds begin asking why. The Royal Office of Water Infrastructure quietly requests copies of every report concerning salt contamination beneath the capital. That last one catches Sahir's attention. Someone above municipal level is watching. Then the opposition makes its next move. Not through the drowned sea, through Hadram. A man arrives after midnight. Tall, veiled, no guild insignia. He meets Hadram alone in the overseer's office. At least, Hadram believes they are alone. Sahir has one ordinary corpse carrying laundry in the adjacent corridor. Its hearing is poor. Good enough. The stranger places a heavy purse on the table. Keep buying. Hadram hesitates. What? Drowned belongings. Sahir goes still. The stranger continues. Especially anything marked with 3 waves. Hadram's voice drops. Who are you? Someone paying. Predictable enough that Hadram stops asking. The stranger adds one condition. Do not sell marked objects to the Cartographers Guild. Hadram looks at the purse. Why? Because they misunderstand what they're collecting. And you don't? A pause. No. Interesting. The stranger leaves no name. But after he departs, Sahir sends one of Hadram's runners to follow. The boy returns before dawn, terrified. The stranger entered the palace district, not the merchant quarter, not the noble residences. The restricted inner district surrounding Qadira's oldest cistern. Now the scale changes. This is no longer Sahir quietly exploiting dead sailors. Guilds are moving. The palace is moving. Someone connected to the 3-wave mark is spending money inside his own network. And Hadram, blinded by profit, is happily selling access to both sides. Our captain does not shut it down. That would be wasteful. Instead, he alters the flow. Marked objects go through Hadram. Unmarked anchors come directly to Sahir. Copies of valuable documents go to the cartographers. Originals remain below the tannery. False purchase records inflate the number of useless sailor artifacts. Real acquisitions disappear from the ledger. A fleet needs fog just as much as cannon. Sahir creates his own. Then the clue finally arrives. Not from a palace agent, not from Maresh, from Garen. During recovery aboard the Winter Crow, the drowned bosun enters the captain's cabin without instruction. He stops in front of the wall, then knocks 3 times. Sahir hears the sound through the connection. Hollow. Garen knocks again. There is a compartment behind the panel. Our captain orders it opened. Inside rests a waterproof leather packet. The contents are still dry. 3 dispatches, a coastal chart, and 1 narrow strip of black cloth. Sahir unfolds the first dispatch, routine patrol orders. The second describes missing ships. The third changes everything. It is addressed to the Winter Crow's captain 93 years ago. The order commands him to avoid a section of sea officially listed as empty water, no reefs, no islands, no military installations. Yet the document calls the region the Crown Anchorage. Below the order is a warning. Vessels lost within the anchorage are not to be recovered. Beneath that sentence appears the 3-wave symbol. Sahir reads the final line, authorized by the 9th keeper of the Salt Throne. He says nothing. Garen stands beside him. Then the dead boatswain reaches into the compartment again. His hand emerges holding something much smaller. A brass key, black with age. 3 hooked waves surround its bow. And engraved along the stem is a ship name Sahir has not seen written anywhere in 13 years. Morning Tide. For the first time since his rebirth, our captain is holding physical proof that his flagship did not simply sink and disappear. Someone cataloged it. Someone built a key for it. Someone connected it to the Salt Throne. Sahir closes his hand around the brass. Far beyond the range of his 18 ghost vessels, something enormous answers. 1 bell. Deep enough to shake the drowned sea. Garen immediately straightens. Every sailor aboard the Palefinch stops working. The Winter Crow's dead commander turns toward the darkness. Then dozens of ships Sahir cannot yet see begin ringing their bells one after another. His fleet is not merely waiting. It has heard him, and now Sahir finally has the key that can lead him to it. The Morning Tide answers from somewhere Sahir cannot reach, not as a vague presence, not as another distant signal among hundreds. It answers the brass key directly, 1 bell, then another, then a third. Each strike rolls through the drowned sea like thunder underwater. Every vessel in Sahir's fleet reacts. The Palefinch turns west. The Winter Crow's lanterns ignite without command. Even the half-rotted fishing boats drag their bows toward the same impossible point in the darkness. Garen Pell stands perfectly still beside the recovered key. Then the drowned boatswain does something Sahir has never seen him do. He salutes, not the rough gesture of a freight sailor, a formal naval salute. Wrong uniform, wrong century, but executed with absolute precision. Sahir notices immediately. Why? Garen lowers his hand. His ruined jaw moves. No sound comes out. Then he touches 2 fingers to the brass key. A memory tears open. Black waves. Rain. The Palefinch sailing under emergency lanterns. Garen is alive, younger, terrified. His ship is not running from pirates. It is following something. A massive silhouette moves through fog ahead. Black sails, a familiar stern, the Morning Tide. Sahir's concentration tightens. That should be impossible. The Palefinch sank more than a century before Sahir's current life. Ronan Voss commanded the Morning Tide decades later. The memory shifts. Garen's captain is shouting. Not battle orders, coordinates. They are tracking the ghost vessel. Then another ship appears from the fog. Armored, chain-draped. 3 hooked waves painted across its bow. The same faction. The memory ends with the Palefinch being rammed. Sahir returns to the Winter Crow. No panic, no disbelief. Just silence. He looks at Garen again. The boatswain did not recognize Sahir because they served together in life. They never did. Garen recognized the office, or the vessel, or something attached to both. That distinction matters. Our captain turns the brass key over in his fingers. The name Morning Tide is engraved into the stem, but the metal is older than the ship should be, much older. Corrosion patterns do not lie. Ronan Voss spent decades inspecting anchors, cannons, rigging brackets, and every cheap replacement part dishonest suppliers tried to sneak aboard his fleet. This key was not forged during his lifetime. It may predate him by centuries. So why does it carry his flagship's name? Sahir leaves the drowned sea immediately. Back in the tannery basement, the 24 brine trays are trembling. Tiny ripples move west across every surface. No wind, no vibration. Just response. The brass key remains cold in his palm. He places it alone in an empty tray. Nothing. Adds water. Nothing. Adds salt. The moment the crystals dissolve, every candle in the basement goes out. Black water spreads across the tray. Not from the cup, from below. Sahir pulls his hand away. Too late. The surface expands. The clay tray should hold less than a gallon. Instead, it becomes a window. Dark ocean opens beneath him. Chains rise through the water. Dozens, hundreds, Each one stretches downward beyond sight. At their center stands the circular platform he glimpsed through Maresh's old coin, the Salt Throne. This time he sees it clearly. Not a chair, not a crown. A naval command dais built inside a submerged fortress. 7 stone rings surround the central platform. Each ring contains sockets shaped for keys. Most are empty. 3 are occupied. One key resembles Sahir's. Another is carved from black bone. The third looks like translucent coral. The implication is immediate. Multiple fleets. Multiple authorities. Multiple command lines. Drowned Dominion is not unique. Sahir leans closer. Symbols cover the stone. Old Varric. Some older, some almost identical to signal marks Ronan learned from forgotten naval archives. He reads them slowly. First ring, coastal dead. Second ring, merchant dead. Third ring, naval dead. Fourth ring, crown dead. The 5th inscription is damaged. The 6th is deliberately chiseled away. The 7th remains intact. Nameless dead. Sahir's expression hardens. This is not a necromancer skill tree. It is infrastructure. Someone built a system for controlling dead fleets. Not metaphorically, physically, administratively. With hierarchy, classification, access keys, rules. The supernatural power Sahir awakened has been treated like a naval institution before. The biggest question is no longer why he can command drowned ships. It is who built the mechanism. The water surges. A figure appears on the outer ring. The same dead Captain Sahir encountered beneath the irrigation tunnel. Long coat, corroded shoulder plates, half his face hidden by barnacles. This time he carries no weapon. He walks toward the central dais. Sahir watches. The captain stops at the 4th ring. Crowned dead. Then he places one hand against an empty key socket. Nothing happens. He looks toward Sahir, then toward the brass key. Understanding lands cleanly. Wrong, Captain. That was never an insult. It was classification. The dead man was trying to tell him Sahir belonged to the wrong command tier. Our necromancer does not react outwardly. Inside, the entire system rearranges. The stranger cannot access the socket. Sahir possibly can. The dead captain gestures, not toward the throne, toward a wall behind it. There, carved into stone, is a line of names. Keepers, one after another. Centuries of them, most mean nothing to Sahir. Then one name stops him. Ronan Voss. Not recent, not near the bottom. The carving sits between names dated nearly 300 years apart. Ronan Voss. Recorded long before Ronan Voss was born. For exactly 2 seconds, Sahir says nothing. Then he begins checking the evidence. Same spelling? Yes. Same naval sigil beside the name, a black tide mark? That symbol belonged to Ronan's fleet. Except apparently it belonged to someone else first. Same ship? A second inscription sits beneath the name. Vessel Morning Tide. There it is. Older than him. Older than his ship. Older than every officer who served under his command. Sahir does not waste time asking whether fate exists. That question produces nothing. He asks useful questions instead. Was Ronan named after someone? No. His family name came from an inland military line with no naval history. Was the Morning Tide's name inherited? He chose it himself after buying the unfinished hull. Was the ship secretly ancient? Impossible. He watched half of it being built. Then only one explanation remains remotely functional. The Salt Throne records not vessels as objects. It records command identities, roles, patterns. Something repeats, maybe through reincarnation, maybe through inheritance, maybe through a mechanism he does not yet understand. The old captain taps the carved name, then points at Sahir. After that, he points down, far beneath the Salt Throne. The darkness moves. Something enormous lies below the fortress. Not a ship. A graveyard. Thousands of hulls arranged in concentric circles. At the center rests one shape larger than all the others. Sahir recognizes the stern before he sees the name, the Morning Tide. His Morning Tide, not broken, not decayed, anchored, held by 9 chains, and surrounding it are ships from the Black Wake fleet. Dozens. Then more beyond them. His crew is still there. His fleet truly waited. Except it was never free. The Salt Throne captured it. That changes everything. The old captain finally speaks. This time Sahir hears him. One word. Keeper. The drowned sea disappears. The basement returns. Every brine tray cracks at once. Water spills across the floor. Sahir remains kneeling beside the broken clay. His hand still holds the key. Garen stands through the pale finch connection, far below, waiting. Our captain finally understands the deeper problem. His class is not merely summoning ocean dead. Drowned Dominion is an access authority to an ancient maritime necromantic network. The ships do not exist because of his power. His power allows him to enter a system that already existed. That means there are rules he has not discovered, ranks he has not earned. and possibly people, dead or living, who consider him an intruder. Good. At least now the enemy has shape. Sahir gets up. He takes the copied three-wave symbol Maresh left behind, places it beside the brass key, then adds the old lighthouse coin. 3 objects, 3 links. 1 institution. Salt Throne. The three-wave faction is connected to it. The palace knows enough to hide underground access points. The Cartographers Guild collects evidence. And someone has been purchasing drowned artifacts through Hadram. The problem is no longer a lost fleet. It is a struggle over who controls the Dead Sea itself. Sahir changes the expedition plan. Again. Originally, he intended to leave for Damas Reach with Hadram's next caravan. That route would take him west, closer to the coast. Closer to whatever signal the Black Timber was producing. Now he delays departure, not because he is afraid, because leaving Qadira before opening the palace, records would be criminally inefficient. Someone sealed the excavation documents around the old irrigation foundations. Someone knows why marine structures exist beneath the capital, and the old coin came from a well inside the southern district. Multiple access points, possibly an entire buried port. A landlocked kingdom may have been built over a drowned naval facility. Talk about choosing an inconvenient place for an orphanage. The first move comes from the enemy before Sahir can make his own. Master Hadram arrives that night with new orders. Not requests, orders. The palace wants a demonstration. Sahir looks up from his ledger. Of what? You. There it is. Hadram tries to sound proud. He fails. Fear keeps leaking through. Who asked? A representative of the Royal Cistern Office. Name. Hadram hesitates. Sahir closes the ledger. Name. Keeper Salvek. The word lands harder than the name. Keeper. Sahir says nothing. Hadram continues. They heard about your corpse workers. No. The overseer's mouth tightens. What? They heard about the artifacts. Hadram looks away. That confirms it. The palace contact bribing him was not independent. He belongs to the same structure connected to the Salt Throne. Our captain stands. When? Tomorrow? Where? The first cistern. That location changes the risk. The first cistern is older than Qadira's current dynasty. It sits beneath the palace district. According to city folklore, the reservoir has never run dry, even during droughts, even when every other aquifer drops. Sahir used to think that was propaganda. Now he suspects seawater, or something worse. The demonstration is obviously a trap, which makes refusing pointless. People only stop inviting you when they decide to drag you there. Better to enter standing. Sahir prepares accordingly. He takes no obvious drowned artifacts, leaves the morning tide key hidden beneath the tannery floor, gives Garen standing orders to move the pale finch if Sahir's command link disappears for more than an hour, positions the winter crow west of the fleet, orders 2 fishing vessels to remain separated as relays. Then he tests one ability he has been developing since the irrigation tunnel. The technique begins with surface similarity. A shallow brine tray strengthens command because it resembles the sea, so Sahir has spent weeks reducing the requirement. A full tray becomes a cup becomes a wet cloth becomes salt rubbed into his palm. Finally, this morning, he manages the smallest version yet. 1 drop. Salt water touches his fingertip. The drowned sea flickers into focus for half a second. Enough to give 1 command. Enough to summon 1 connection. Not enough for sustained battle. Yet, that is fine. This is not the finished technique, it is proof of concept. Sahir names it Tide Mark. Not because the system tells him to, because commanders name useful procedures so they can repeat them under pressure. The following afternoon, Sahir enters the palace district wearing dusthouse gray. Hadram walks beside him. The man keeps talking. How important this is. How much money royal contracts could bring. How their lives might change. Sahir barely listens. He studies architecture. Blue stone channels run beneath the streets. Moisture gathers along certain walls despite the heat. 3 public fountains contain traces of salt, tiny, almost undetectable. The entire district is connected. The first cistern sits beneath a circular administrative hall. Keeper Salvek waits downstairs. He is younger than Sahir expects. Maybe 35. Clean white robes. No jewelry except a silver disc at his throat. 3 hooked waves. Hollow circle. Finally, a living member. Salvek smiles. Sahir Vaun. Keeper. The man's eyes sharpen slightly. Hadram looks confused. Apparently the title was not meant to mean anything to Sahir. Good. The demonstration chamber contains 1 corpse. A drowned sailor, fresh, still bloated. Water drips from the table. Sahir smells genuine ocean salt, not Qadiran mineral brine. Someone transported this body hundreds of miles inland. Expensive. Deliberate. Salvek gestures toward it. Raise him. Sahir approaches. The moment he touches the corpse, drowned dominion surges. A vessel appears below. Small coastal galley. 8 dead crew. Strong anchor, too strong. Placed specifically to test him. Sahir uses ordinary necromancy instead. The corpse twitches. Fingers move. Head lifts. Slow. Weak. Mediocre. Salvek watches. Again, Sahir pushes slightly more. The corpse sits upright. Nothing else. The keeper looks almost disappointed. Hadram looks desperate. He's done more than this. Sahir does not turn. Idiot. Salvek's interest returns. Has he? Hadram starts explaining. The burial trench. The sailor who spoke. The artifacts. The strange efficiency. Every secret Sahir intentionally allowed him to see. Exactly as designed. The overseer thinks he is proving Sahir's value. Instead, he is confirming the false profile Sahir built around him. Salvek walks closer, then removes the silver disc from his neck. Try with this. He places it on the corpse's chest. The 3-wave symbol touches wet fabric. The effect is immediate. The drowned sailor's eyes open, not because Sahir commands it, because the disc does. The corpse turns toward Salvek, then kneels. Our captain feels the underlying mechanism, different from his own authority, cruder, external. The silver disc does not command the drowned dead directly. It borrows permission from somewhere else. A remote hierarchy. Salt throne access. Salvek believes he is demonstrating superiority. Instead, he has just shown Sahir how the opposition's command system functions. Very generous. The keeper smiles. You see, your class is not as unusual as you think. Sahir says nothing. Salvek leans closer. There are older forms of necromancy. Still nothing. Older masters. Nothing. Then the man makes his mistake. Older captains. Sahir looks at him. Only once. Salvek notices. Too late. The word was bait, but bait works both ways. Our hero asks, do necromancers captain ships now? Salvek studies him. Some always have. There. Confirmation. Not enough, but real. The keeper picks up the silver disc. You'll work for the Royal Cistern Office. Hadram looks thrilled. Sahir asks, doing what? Recovering maritime dead. In a desert. Salvek smiles. The desert has more ocean in it than most people understand, and with that single sentence, the scale of Qadira finally cracks open. The kingdom did not accidentally discover drowned artifacts. It was built here because of them. Sahir understands immediately. The aquifers, the sealed wells, the marine fossils, the underground foundations, the royal interest in salt contamination, all of it forms one pattern. Qadira is sitting on top of an ancient access network, maybe the largest surviving one. The kingdom's wealth from water is merely the visible layer. Beneath it lies control of a dead ocean. Our captain does not ask for an explanation. He accepts the job. Salvek clearly expects resistance. That makes the answer even better. When do I start? The keeper pauses. Tomorrow. Payment? Hadram nearly dies. Salvek laughs. You're negotiating? You're hiring. A longer pause. Then Salvek gives him a number. Sahir doubles it. The keeper refuses. Sahir asks for archive access instead. That catches the man. Which archive? Maritime recoveries. Hadram looks like he wants to object. Salvek considers. Limited. Fine. Done. The job Sahir planned to infiltrate has just handed him a badge. By sunset, the Royal Cistern Office issues him provisional specialist status. Hadram receives a commission. Naturally, the overseer walks back toward the dust house looking 10 years younger. He has no idea how deeply he has just stepped into something beyond him, and Sahir has no intention of pulling him out yet. Meanwhile, beneath the palace district, Keeper Salvek descends alone into a sealed chamber. He opens a bronze door. Behind it waits the dead captain from the irrigation tunnel, not physically. His reflection moves inside a vertical basin of black seawater. Salvek bows. The boy responded to the disc. The dead captain watches. He hid his authority. Salvek stiffens. You're certain? The corpse raises one ruined hand. Behind him, distant ghost ships move through darkness. His fleet is already forming. Salvek's face changes. Then we take him now. The dead captain shakes his head. No. One word. Absolute. Salvek lowers his gaze. Why? The old captain turns toward the depth where the morning tide remains chained. Because the key answered. For the first time, Salvek looks afraid. He whispers a title. The Return Keeper. The dead captain says nothing. That silence is confirmation enough. Back at the dust house, Sahir receives his royal access badge. He does not sleep. Instead, he returns to the tannery and opens the hidden floor compartment. The morning tide key waits inside. He places it beside a single drop of brine. Tide mark activates. The drowned sea appears. Garen stands aboard the Pale Finch. The Winter Crow holds formation behind him. 18 ships wait. Sahir looks toward the direction of the Salt Throne. then toward the chained silhouette of his old flagship far beyond reach. He finally understands what the next stage requires. Not more random ships, not more corpses. Command authority. He needs to climb whatever hierarchy the Salt Throne recognizes. And if the palace believes it can teach him that system slowly, control his growth, and place a leash around his class, they have made the exact mistake every weaker admiral once made against Ronan Voss. They think access to the harbor means ownership of the fleet. Sahir gives Garen a new order. Find every command vessel within range. The drowned boatswain turns. 3 ships separate from formation. Lanterns ignite. Search patterns begin spreading across the Black Ocean. Our captain closes the connection. Tomorrow, he enters the Royal Archives as an employee. Tonight, his dead fleet begins hunting for the pieces that can make him an admiral again. Keeper Salvik gives Sahir access to the Royal Cistern office at sunrise. By noon, Sahir already knows the building is lying. Officially, the first cistern is a water management complex. Its upper floors contain flow ledgers, maintenance schedules, reservoir maps, and enough bored clerks to make the entire place look painfully ordinary. Below that sits the real institution. Locked staircases, bronze doors without public labels, rooms where every basin contains traces of sea salt, and archives that catalog shipwrecks from coastlines Qadira has never ruled. Our captain says nothing. He simply starts reading. His provisional badge gives him access to the lowest maritime tier. Salvik expects that to frustrate him. Instead, it gives Sahir exactly what he needs: patterns. One recovery report describes a drowned sailor found inside a desert well 78 years ago. Another lists a ship's bell excavated beneath an irrigation reservoir. A third records black timber discovered under the Palace District. Different dates, different officials. Same classification stamp. Crown anchorage material. Sahir has already seen that phrase once aboard the Winter Crow. Now it appears everywhere. The reports reveal that Qadira has been quietly collecting maritime remains for at least 2 centuries. Some objects are sent to the palace. Some disappear into restricted storage. Others are destroyed. The destruction orders matter most. Every artifact bearing the 3-wave symbol is either confiscated or burned. Yet Keeper Salvik wears that same symbol around his neck. Interesting. The office is not protecting Qadira from the symbol. It is controlling who gets to use it. Sahir reads another report, then another. Never too quickly, never enough to look hungry. Across the room, Salvik watches from behind a stack of water permits. Sahir can feel it. Good. Let him. Our necromancer deliberately asks stupid questions. Why are shipwreck records stored in a desert kingdom? Why do sailors appear inside wells? Why is salt contamination considered a state secret? Salvik answers only the safest parts. Ancient geology, lost underground waterways, historical superstition. Reasonable explanations, completely useless. Sahir nods like a child receiving a lesson. Then he memorizes every shelf the keeper avoids looking at. That is where the valuable records are. By the 4th day, Salvik starts testing him properly. A corpse arrives from the western coast. Drowned merchant guard. Recent death. Fresh anchor. Sahir is ordered to raise it in a sealed chamber. He performs ordinary necromancy first. The corpse sits, turns. Follows 3 basic commands. Salvik looks unimpressed. Then he places the silver disc beside the body. 3 waves. Hollow circle. Again, Sahir touches the corpse. Drowned dominion opens. The dead man's vessel appears below, a merchant brig. 11 crew. 2 armed guards. 1 functioning deck cannon. Useful. Our captain suppresses nearly everything. The corpse only raises its head. Salvik studies him. Stronger. Sahir increases output slightly. The corpse stands. Stronger. Another fraction. The corpse salutes. That reaction is not Sahir's. He immediately understands the trick. The silver disc is feeding a second command into the anchor. Salvik is not measuring strength. He is measuring whether Sahir can detect competing authority, so Sahir pretends he cannot. He orders the corpse to walk. The disc orders it to kneel. The drowned sailor hesitates, then kneels. Sahir frowns deliberately. Why did it do that? Salvik's face relaxes. There. The keeper wanted ignorance. Our boy gives it to him. Residual memory, Salvik says. Can I fix it? With training. Another lie. Sahir nods. Meanwhile, through the anchor, he memorizes the signature of Salvik's command. Cold, circular, external. The keeper does not truly own the corpse. He is issuing orders through borrowed authority tied to the Salt Throne. That makes his control powerful. It also makes it dependent. Sahir already knows what happens to systems dependent on a central command point. Cut the signal. Everything below it goes blind. He spends the next week finding out how. The Royal Cistern office becomes more generous. Not because Salvik trusts him, because he wants Sahir invested. A private room, better pay. access to corpse records, permission to handle low-grade recovered artifacts. Hadram is ecstatic. The overseer spends Sahir's increasing wages before they even arrive. New furniture enters his office. Better wine appears at dinner. He buys 2 more labor contracts. Then 5. He even begins calling Sahir our specialist whenever merchants visit. Our captain lets him enjoy it. Hadram is still useful. More importantly, he is becoming dependent on Sahir's income. The rope tightens, exactly as expected. Then Hadram takes the next step. He signs an exclusive supply agreement with the Royal Cistern Office. Without asking, Sahir learns when 3 crates arrive at the tannery carrying royal seals. Inside are drowned belongings, 47 items. Enough anchors to expand the fleet massively. Hadram stands beside them grinning like a man who has finally outsmarted the world. The palace provides inventory. Sahir examines the contract. In exchange for what? Priority rights. 2. Everything you recover. There it is, the last move of a greedy man. Hadram has spent months investing deeper into the network. Loans, bribes, runners, storage, royal contracts. Now he has tied the entire operation legally to the palace because the commission is too attractive to refuse. Exactly the kind of mistake Sahir has been waiting for. Our boy folds the contract once. You signed this personally? Of course. With your seal? Hadram taps the red wax proudly. Right there. Sahir hands the paper back. Good. The overseer blinks. He expected anger. That is because he still thinks he understands the game. He does not. The agreement makes Hadram responsible for every artifact acquired through his network, including stolen cemetery goods, unregistered anchors, false ledgers, smuggled maritime remains, and dozens of transactions Sahir has quietly allowed the overseer to authorize in writing. If the palace needs a scapegoat later, Hadram has just volunteered. If Hadram ever tries to betray Sahir first, the same evidence works in reverse. Trap complete. Our captain moves on. The 47 royal artifacts produce 9 useful anchors. 3 connect to minor fishing craft, 2 to cargo barges, 1 to a wrecked naval tender, 2 connect only to individual sailors. The last one changes the fleet. A blackened copper whistle belongs to a drowned signal officer named Esme Vale. She served aboard a command corvette called the King's Needle. Unlike most dead sailors Sahir encounters, Esme responds immediately. No confusion, no repeated command. She appears aboard the drowned corvette, walks to the signal mast, and waits. Garen notices her. The dead bosun crosses the pale finch deck. Esme lifts the whistle. Garen raises his spectral rope. Neither speaks. Then Esme blows. No sound reaches Sahir's ears, but lanterns ignite across every ship under his command. 1, 2, 5, 10, 18, 27, all at once. Formation response becomes nearly instantaneous. Sahir feels command strain drop so sharply that he stops moving. That is not a normal improvement. Esme is a communications officer. Her presence turns separate vessels into a fleet network. The system confirms it quietly, signal retainer recognized, fleet relay efficiency increased. Garen looks toward the King's Needle, then back at Sahir. For the first time, the drowned bosun removes the spectral rope completely. He stretches it across the pale finch's deck. The rope lengthens, blue markings appear along it. Not knots, signal intervals, formation spacing. Sahir understands. Garen's evolution is approaching. The corpse is no longer merely maintaining ships. It is beginning to understand fleet-scale organization. But something is missing. A proper command vessel. A flagship. The pale finch cannot carry the weight forever. Garen seems to know it too. He coils the glowing rope and points into the darkness. 3 newly discovered command vessel signals wait beyond current reach. Sahir marks all 3. Later. Not yet. The palace pressure is rising too quickly. Keeper Salvek stops pretending Sahir is just a talented orphan. He starts bringing him below the public cistern levels. First one floor, then another. At the 4th underground tier, Sahir sees chains embedded directly into the masonry, not decorative, functional. Each disappears into wells too deep for torchlight. Salt crust covers the stone. The same geometry from the Salt Throne vision appears carved around the openings. 7 rings, different authority levels. Salvek notices where Sahir is looking. Old engineering. Looks expensive. It was. Who built it? No surviving record. Lie. Sahir glances toward him. Salvek smiles. Disappointed? No. Most children ask more questions. Most children haven't learned that people only answer the ones they want. Salvek laughs softly. You're not much of a child. Neither are you much of a water clerk. Neither says it. They keep walking. At the end of the corridor, a bronze gate blocks the path. 3 wave symbols cover its surface. Salvek presses his silver disc into a circular slot. The gate opens. Behind it lies a chamber containing 12 corpses, all drowned, all preserved in salt, all wearing naval uniforms from different centuries. Sahir's eyes move across them once, one from the Western Empire, two from vanished coastal kingdoms, one whose uniform predates Ronan's era by at least 400 years, and one wearing black-weight colors. His colors. Sahir stops, barely. The corpse lies in the far corner. Male, middle-aged, left ear missing. A narrow scar crosses the chin. Quartermaster Joran Hale. Ronan remembers that face. Joran served aboard the Morning Tide for 14 years. He could calculate 6 months of provisions without writing a number down. He hated card games. He collected carved whale teeth. And on the night Ronan was murdered, Joran was supposed to be supervising the lower stores. Sahir believed he drowned with the ship. Now his corpse is lying beneath Kadira, hundreds of miles inland, preserved by the palace. Salvik watches him. Recognize someone? Trap. Sahir looks away from Joran. No. The keeper says nothing. Our captain approaches a different corpse. Good enough. Salvik expected a reaction. He did not get one. But Sahir now has proof of something worse. The palace has physical remains from the Morning Tide. That means someone recovered part of his crew after the betrayal. Possibly immediately after. The sinking was not the end of the operation. Maybe it was never meant to be. The trade route dispute suddenly looks smaller, too small. Silas Dre may have believed he killed Ronan over the Sapphire Passage. But somebody else was waiting beneath that betrayal. Someone interested in the captain, the ship, or the authority attached to both. Sahir does not revise emotionally. He revises operationally. Silas remains guilty, but Silas may have been a pawn. That makes the old revenge target less important than the organization that benefited. The keeper points at the preserved sailors. Choose one. For what? Command exercise. Sahir gestures toward a random naval corpse. Salvek shakes his head. Not that one. Interesting. He points at another. Again. No. Restrictions. So certain corpses belong to higher command categories. Sahir starts using the exercise to map them. Merchant sailor. Allowed. Coastal patrolman. Allowed. Imperial lieutenant. Restricted. Ancient admiral. Highly restricted. Joran. Restricted. Why would a quartermaster receive the same protection as an admiral? Because of the ship he served aboard. Not rank. Vessel identity determines authority. The Morning Tide itself is the key. Salvek finally chooses a drowned marine. Raise him. Sahir complies. This time the competition is stronger. The palace command pushes down through the silver disc. Sahir sends drowned Dominion upward. The corpse shakes. One knee bends, then stops. For half a second, Sahir holds the sailor between two command structures. Salvek's eyes sharpen. Too much. Our boy immediately releases pressure. The corpse kneels to the keeper. Sahir staggers deliberately. Salvek catches his shoulder. Ike, sure, yes. Our captain breathes harder than necessary. That one was stronger. Yes. Why? Rank. Partial truth. Sahir lets him keep it. The keeper escorts him upstairs. But after Sahir leaves, Salvek returns to the chamber. He stands beside Joran Hale's corpse. Then another man enters through the opposite door. Older. Thin. Gold-threaded robes beneath a plain white mantle. Salvek bows immediately. High Keeper Ordan. There it is. The second layer finally steps into the light. Ordan does not acknowledge the bow. He looks only at Joran. The boy recognized him. Salvek frowns. He showed nothing. He stopped breathing for half a second. You saw that? I was watching through the basin. Salvek's jaw tightens. Ordan touches Joran's preserved forehead. The corpse's eyes open. Ronan Voss. The dead quartermaster speaks the old name. Salvek goes pale. Ordan smiles. So the cycle is genuine. Then we seize the key. No. Again. The same answer. Salvek looks frustrated. He is building vessels beneath us. Let him. He could become dangerous. He already is. Ordan finally turns. The Salt Throne has rejected every candidate for 86 years. If the Return Keeper has truly appeared, killing him before he opens the crowned ring would waste generations of preparation. Salvek lowers his voice. And after he opens it, Ordan's expression becomes very simple. We remove him. There it is, the plan. Not recruit Sahir, not train him, use him. They need his authority to unlock something they cannot access themselves. Then they intend to take whatever comes after. Classic. Painfully classic. Meanwhile, Sahir knows none of those exact words. He does not need them. The structure is already visible. The palace keeps giving him access, keeps testing command strength, keeps exposing higher-tier drowned corpses. They are not trying to suppress his growth. They are measuring it. That means they need him stronger, until a specific point. After that, he becomes disposable. Our captain has survived enough alliances to recognize the shape, so he accelerates on his terms. Using Esme's signal network, he expands the fleet from 27 vessels to 39 without increasing direct command strain. Garen organizes repair teams. The Winter Crow handles patrol formation. The King's Needle becomes communications relay. The Saint Aura stores recovered materials. For the first time, every vessel has a defined role. Then Garen begins doing something strange. He collects bells, small ones, broken ones, signal bells from wrecks, cabin bells, watch bells. He orders other drowned sailors to bring them aboard the Palefinch. Sahir never tells him to. Within 4 days, 13 bells hang from the courier sloop's damaged mast. Garen tests them one by one, different pitch, different range, different response. Esme watches from the King's Needle. Then she starts answering with lantern signals. The 2 dead retainers are building something, a command language. Not words, sound and light. A system that could coordinate dozens of vessels without Sahir issuing individual orders. Companion, evolution preparation. Sahir lets them continue. If it works, his fleet stops being a collection of undead summons. It becomes autonomous enough to fight like Ronan's old navy. Maybe better. The palace senses the growth too. Salvek's demeanor changes. Less teacher, more handler. He begins demanding daily demonstrations. Then twice daily, he restricts Sahir's archive access. A guard starts following him between floors. Royal buyers take full control of Hadram's artifact network. And 3 of the Overseer's runners disappear. Hadram finally becomes nervous. Something's wrong. Sahir looks at him across the tannery table. Something has been wrong for months. They're taking over. Yes. You knew? Yes. Hadram stares. Why didn't you stop them? Sahir continues writing. Because they were paying for the expansion. The Overseer goes quiet. Our captain turns the ledger around. Every royal purchase, every illegal artifact, every bribe, every missing grave item, all tied to Hadram's seal. The man's face drains of color. What is this? Insurance. Against who? Sahir looks at him. You. That finally breaks the illusion. Hadram understands that the orphan he thought he owned has been preparing for his betrayal the entire time. He stands so quickly the chair falls. You planned this. Yes. Since when? The first contract. Hadram's mouth opens. Nothing comes out. Sahir closes the ledger. You're going to do exactly what you've been doing. Why would I? Because if you run, the palace arrests you. Silence. If you confess, they ask why you stole registered grave goods. Hadram's breathing becomes shallow. If you betray me, I give the cartographers copies of everything. The Overseer looks sick. And if I cooperate? You stay rich, simple, concrete. No speech about loyalty. No moral lesson, just terms. Hadram sits back down. What do you want? The palace shipment schedule. I don't have it. You will. How? Sahir slides a small purse across the table. The same kind Hadram once accepted from the palace intermediary. Do what you do best, bribe someone. For the first time, Hadram looks almost offended. Then he takes the purse. Of course he does. 2 days later, the schedule arrives. One line matters. Crown anchorage transfer, first cistern 3 nights. No cargo description, no quantity, no sender. Just a sealed royal authorization. Sahir studies the date, 3 nights. The same night, the morning tide key has begun pulsing inside its hidden compartment. Once every hour, then every 40 minutes. Now every 30. Something is approaching alignment. Palace transfer. Key reaction. Salt thrown. Same night. Not coincidence. Our captain moves every piece. Garen shifts the fleet toward the drowned coordinates beneath the first cistern. Esme establishes 3 relay lines. The Winter Crow takes rear command. 2 expendable wrecks move forward as scouts. The Saint Aura carries repair timber. 9 fast vessels spread wide. Sahir stores salt beneath his sleeves in waxed paper packets. Tidemark has improved enough that a single wet fingertip can now hold the drowned sea for nearly 3 seconds. Still short, but enough to issue a formation change, enough to call Garen, enough to cut 1 anchor. The palace believes Sahir needs their basins. That assumption may keep him alive. At midnight on the 3rd night, nothing dramatic happens. No alarm, no attack. No royal summons, just one tiny sound beneath the tannery floor. Ding. Sahir looks down. One of Garen's collected bells has appeared physically inside the central brine tray. Not a reflection. Not a vision. A real bronze bell no larger than a plum. Water drips from it. Black seawater. The boundary has been crossed. For the first time, an object from the drowned sea has entered the living world. Sahir picks it up. The interface behind his eyes responds immediately. Fleet relay prototype manifested. Incomplete authority structure detected. Our captain turns the bell once in his palm. Small, almost worthless looking. Exactly the kind of event nobody in Qadira would notice. Below the world, however, 39 dead ships light their lanterns at the same time. Garen raises his spectral rope. Esme lifts her whistle. And Sahir understands that every piece he needs is finally in position. The palace makes its move before sunrise. Keeper Salvik arrives at the dust house with 12 royal guards, 2 sealed wagons, and an expression far too calm for an ordinary work assignment. Sahir sees the formation from the second-floor window, front pair watching exits, 4 guarding the wagons. 2 positioned near Hadram's office. The remaining 4 spread wide enough to surround the courtyard without looking like they are surrounding anything. Not an escort. Containment. Our captain finishes tying his boots. Then he takes 1 grain of salt from the small packet hidden beneath his sleeve and presses it against his tongue. The drowned sea flickers. 3 seconds. Enough. Garen stands aboard the Pale Finch. 39 ships wait in darkness. Esme Vale raises her whistle. Sahir gives one order. Hold. The connection closes. By the time he reaches the courtyard, Hadram is already arguing with Salvik. Apparently, greed survives even when surrounded by armed men. You said specialist transfer, the overseer snaps. Nothing about taking him permanently. Salvik hands him a document. Royal service supersedes private labor contracts. Hadram reads the first lines. His face changes. Sahir does not need to see the paper. He already knows what the palace is doing. Removing ownership. Removing witnesses. Removing variables. Hadram looks toward him. For the first time since Sahir awakens, the overseer is not thinking about money. He is thinking about survival. Good. Fear is finally making him useful. Salvik turns. Ready? Sahir looks at the wagons. What are those? Equipment. Then no. The keeper pauses. No? I don't enter an unknown worksite beside sealed cargo. One guard almost laughs. Salvik does not. What do you think is inside? If I knew, they wouldn't need seals. Silence stretches across the courtyard. Then Salvik gestures. 1 wagon opens. Salt barrels, bronze chains, 3 black stone basins, and a long wooden case reinforced with copper. The second wagon remains closed. Sahir points at it. That one too. Salvik smiles faintly. You've become demanding. You've become secretive. Become? Fair point. The keeper opens the second wagon. Inside rests a coffin. No decoration. No royal crest. Only 3 hooked waves carved into the lid. Sahir smells seawater immediately. Strong. Fresh. The coffin contains something tied directly to the salt throne. He does not ask what. That would be exactly what Salvik expects. Instead, our boy nods. Fine, they leave. The convoy does not travel toward the first cistern. That is the first surprise. It heads south, past government offices, past the noble quarter, past the old market. Eventually they reach a dry plaza Sahir recognizes from Maresh's description. At its center stands a sealed well, the one where the lighthouse coin was found 70 years ago. So this is the transfer site, not the palace, not the public cistern, another access point. Workers have already removed the stone cover. Bronze scaffolding surrounds the shaft. A pulley system descends into darkness. Highkeeper Ordan waits beside it. Sahir has never met him officially, but the man's robes tell enough. White mantle, gold-threaded cuffs, no visible office insignia. Everyone else bows. Sahir does not. Ordan notices. Young Sahir, Highkeeper. That gets a reaction. Tiny. Useful. Ordan glances at Salvik. You told him? No. Sahir answers before Salvik can. People who want to hide rank usually make everyone else display theirs. Ordan smiles. Sharp. Efficient. The Highkeeper gestures toward the well. We're recovering something today. What? An inheritance. There. Not an artifact. Not a corpse. An inheritance. Sahir files the word away. The coffin is unloaded. Bronze chains attached to its corners. The 3 black basins are arranged around the well. Workers fill them with salt water. Then Salvik orders everyone except the keepers, Sahir, and 6 guards to withdraw. Hadram is stopped at the edge of the plaza. He looks towards Sahir. Fear again. Our captain gives him nothing. Hadram has one job now. Remain visible. Remain legally attached. Remain alive long enough to become inconvenient to the palace. The overseer does not know it, but this is the payoff for every contract Sahir allowed him to sign. Months ago, Hadram built the artifact network in his own name because he wanted the profits. Now the Royal Cistern Office cannot simply erase Sahir without explaining why its exclusive supplier, municipal contractor, and registered guardian disappears at the exact same time. A greedy man's paperwork has become political armor, not perfect armor. Enough. The setup finally pays. Salvik opens the coffin. Joran Hale lies inside. Sahir's quartermaster, preserved, motionless. Still wearing fragments of black-weight cloth. Our captain does not react. Ordan watches him anyway. Do you know this man? No. Touch him. There is no point pretending forever. The palace already suspects. What matters is choosing when the truth becomes useful. Sahir approaches. His hand rests against Joran's chest. The world detonates, not visually, through command. Drowned dominion surges so violently that every basin around the well turns black. The guards step back. Salvik's silver disc begins vibrating. Orden's eyes widen. Joran opens his eyes. Captain, one word. Clear. No rasp. No hesitation. Every person in the plaza hears it. And just like that, the lie is dead. Salvik reaches for his disc. Ordon raises one hand. Wait. Joran sits upright. His eyes never leave Sahir. Captain Voss. Hadram hears that from across the plaza. His mouth falls open. Sahir looks at the dead quartermaster. 13 years of secrecy collapse in a single sentence. Fine. Secrets are tools. Once exposed, they become different tools. Report. Joran's body straightens automatically. The response is instant. Blackweight command structure intact. Salvik goes pale. Orden's composure cracks for the first time. Joran continues. Flagship restrained at Crown Anchorage. Enemy strength, 7 keeper chains active. 3 command keys present. Crowned ring sealed. Crew? A pause. Then the quartermaster says something Sahir has been waiting 13 years to hear. Waiting. The word lands harder than any system notification. His people did not scatter, did not dissolve, did not forget. They waited. Our captain's eyes become cold. Casualties? Unknown. Silas Dre? Joran's dead face twitches. There. Memory. Emotion surviving death. Betrayer survived sinking. Sahir's gaze sharpens. That is new. Current status? Unknown. Not enough. But enough to change the old revenge equation. Silas may still exist somewhere. Alive would be impossible after so many years. Dead? Much more plausible. And if drowned, then Sahir may eventually command the man who murdered him. That thought goes into storage. Later. Orden finally speaks. Enough. He presses a gold disc against Joran's forehead. The quartermaster jerks. His mouth closes. Sahir feels a second authority seize the corpse. Crown tier command. Stronger than Salvik's borrowed signal, so Orden occupies a higher rung. The High Keeper looks at Sahir. Now you understand why you're here, because you can't open the ring. No one moves. Ordan's smile disappears. Sahir continues. You have access. He points at Salvik's silver disc. Borrowed authority. Then at Orden's gold one. Higher borrowed authority. His eyes shift toward the well. But neither of you can authenticate the morning tide. Salvik's hand goes to his weapon. Orden stops him. Continue. You need the ship. We need what the ship contains. Which is access to the crowned ring. There it is. Confirmed. The deeper reveal finally becomes operational. The Salt Throne recognizes Sahir not simply as a necromancer, but as the returning command identity tied to the morning tide. The palace cannot unlock the higher level without him. That makes Sahir valuable until the seal opens. Afterward? Disposable, exactly as expected. Ordan gestures toward the well. We're going down. Sahir looks over the edge. No rope reaches the bottom, only blackness. Then he smells salt water, real seawater. The shaft is not a well. It is a vertical harbor. They descend inside the 3 black basins. Each basin locks onto bronze guide rails along the shaft. Salt water rises around their ankles. The deeper they travel, the colder the air becomes. Stone changes. Qadiran masonry disappears. Black blocks replace it, ancient, covered in tide marks. Hundreds of feet down, Sahir hears bells, not through drowned dominion. Physically, Salvik hears them too. The keeper's jaw tightens. Orden remains still. The shaft opens. What waits below should not exist beneath a desert capital. A harbor, massive, dry docks carved into black stone, piers stretching over an underground sea. Actual seawater fills the cavern from wall to wall, no visible source. No horizon, just darkness. Ghostly ships drift beneath the surface like reflections that forgot which side of reality they belong on. Qadira was not built over an access point, it was built over a port, an ancient necromantic naval base. Now the kingdom makes sense. The endless aquifers, the water wealth, the palace restrictions, the sealed excavation records, all of it grows from this hidden sea. The public kingdom above is merely camouflage built around the infrastructure below. Sahir steps onto the pier. The persistent smell of salt that followed him since rebirth becomes overwhelming. For 13 years, people mocked it. Orphans called him Brine Boy. Workers accused him of stealing preserved fish. Dogs followed him through markets. Turns out, the smell was never a scar from drowning. It was a signal. His body has been resonating with this place since birth. Orden leads him toward a circular platform. 7 stone rings, the Salt Throne. The same structure Sahir saw through the key, except now half of it exists physically. The rest extends beneath the dark water into the drowned layer, 2 worlds occupying the same harbor. The brass key hidden beneath Sahir's clothing begins burning cold. Orden notices. So you brought it. No point denying that either. Sahir removes the key. The entire cavern rings. One bell. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Ghost vessels rise closer to the surface. Salvek backs away. Even Ordon looks unsettled. Sahir walks toward the fourth ring. Crown dead. The key socket waits, empty. Chains beneath the harbor tighten. Far below, the morning tide answers. Our captain stops before inserting the key. What happens when this opens? Ordon replies too quickly. You gain authority. That's not what I asked. Silence. Sahir turns. What happens to the ships? Salvek's hand reaches for his sword again. Ordon sighs. The crowned ring consolidates command, meaning every vessel tied to a lesser ring becomes subject to the crown authority. There it is. The trap. If Sahir opens it while the palace controls the crown mechanism, his growing fleet becomes subordinate to them. 39 ships. Garin, Esme, the Winter Crow, everything. Months of accumulation handed over in one motion. Ordon extends his hand. The key. Sahir does not move. The Highkeeper's voice hardens. This is larger than you understand. Probably true. Still irrelevant. You built your kingdom around stolen command authority. Ordon's eyes narrow. Stolen? You need me to open your own system. That one lands. Salvek draws his blade. 6 guards spread out. Our boy looks around. 7 enemies. Underground harbor. Salt water everywhere. Extremely poor environment for threatening the only person who commands drowned ships. Ordon seems to realize that at the same moment. Do not be foolish. Sahir reaches into his sleeve. Not for a weapon. For the tiny bronze bell Garin manifested. Salvek laughs once. A bell? Sahir wets one finger in the seawater beside the platform. Tide mark opens. 3 seconds. Esme blows her whistle. Garin pulls the spectral rope. 39 vessels move, not toward the harbor. Around it, weeks of search patterns reveal something the keepers never realized Sahir is mapping. The drowned side of the Salt Throne has 7 approach channels. 6 are guarded. 1 collapsed centuries ago. 2 narrow for large warships, perfect for fishing craft. 3 of Sahir's smallest vessels have been sitting there since last night. Waiting. That is the difference between accessing a harbor and understanding one. Sahir rings the tiny bell. The sound is pathetic, barely louder than a spoon hitting glass. Below the world, it becomes thunder. Garin answers. 13 collected bells ring aboard the Pale Finch. Esme's lantern network flashes. 39 ships split into 6 formations simultaneously. Salvek's face changes. What did you do? Sahir looks at him. Organized. The first ghost ship erupts through the underground water, not physically, halfway. Its drowned hull overlaps reality like a translucent blade. A fishing vessel. Small, broken, completely unimpressive. Until its crew throws 3 spectral ropes around the bronze chains feeding Salvek's silver disc. The keeper shouts. His command token flashes. Second vessel. Third. More ropes. The command signal tears sideways. Salvek's disc cracks. Every preserved corpse under his authority collapses somewhere in the complex at once. He stares at the broken silver, horrified. Impossible. No. Foreshadowed, tested, refined. Tidemark lets Sahir issue commands through minimal salt contact. Esme relays them. Garin converts broad strategy into fleet movement. The small vessels exploit spaces large warships cannot enter. Everything comes from months of accumulation. Nothing appears from nowhere. Ordon slams his gold disc into the crowned ring. The harbor shakes. Black chains erupt from the water. 3 wrap around the first fishing vessel. Its crew flickers. Sahir recognizes the attack. Identity suppression. The same weakness discovered during his first battle in the drowned sea. Destroy memory anchors. Destroy sailors. Except Garin prepared for that too. The spectral rope around the fleet now carries duplicate identity marks between vessels, not full anchors, backups. 1 sailor flickers. The King's Needle flashes a signal. Another ship takes the command load. The sailor stabilizes. Ordon's face changes. For the first time, someone from the Salt Throne system is seeing a fleet organized in a way the old hierarchy never intended. Distributed command. Ronan Voss never had necromancy in his first life. He had something more dangerous. 30 years of solving naval problems without magic. Now magic has to keep up with him. Ordon orders the crown chains forward. Sahir moves, not backward, toward the ring. Salvek lunges. Our captain throws a pinch of salt into the man's face. Not magical. Just irritating. Salvek flinches. Sahir steps inside the sword arm, grabs the wrist, uses the keeper's momentum, then drives him shoulder first into the stone socket. The sword clatters away. 13-year-old body. 30 years of shipboard violence. People keep confusing those facts. Sahir takes Salvek's broken disc. presses it into the crowned ring. Ordan's eyes widen. That won't work, correct. Sahir does not want it to. He wants the system to reject it. The ring flashes. Borrowed authority invalid. For one instant, every chain tied to the ring loosens. That is all he needs. Now, Garen pulls. 39 vessels move together. Spectral ropes tighten across the drowned layer. Chains snap loose from 3 anchor points. The harbor erupts. Ghost water crashes upward. Guards flee. Salvik crawls away. Ordan tries to remove his gold disc. Too late. The Salt Throne is recalculating authority, and Sahir finally inserts the Morning Tide key. The 4th ring ignites. Not gold, black-blue. Every bell in the hidden harbor rings at once. A message burns across Sahir's mind. Crown Dead Authority recognizes returning command identity. Not full access. Not yet. Another line follows. Flag vessel required for confirmation. Perfect. The palace expected the key alone to open the ring. They were wrong. It needs the Morning Tide itself. Which means Sahir still controls the only path forward. Ordan realizes it too. His face becomes white. You knew. No. Sahir looks down into the drowned sea. I checked. That difference is everything. He did not trust prophecy. Did not trust the key. Did not trust the palace. He tested mechanisms until the system revealed its rules. The crowned ring opens only partially. Enough. Its pressure rolls outward. For the first time, Sahir senses his old fleet clearly. Not faint signals. Not distant bells. Ships. 43 Blackwake vessels surround the chained Morning Tide. War brigs. Fast cutters. Supply ships. Boarding craft. The fleet that never lost a battle. His fleet. And aboard every deck, drowned sailors turn toward him. Thousands of dead eyes. Then, one by one, they salute. Salvek sees the silhouettes appearing beneath the harbor. His sword slips from his hand. Ordan takes one step backward. Close the ring. Sahir ignores him. The Highkeeper raises his gold disc. Close it. Our captain looks across the dead fleet. 30 years without defeat. 13 years trapped in sand. Months commanding wrecks nobody wanted. Everything converges here. The Blackwake sailors begin striking fists against their chests. One ship, then another. Then dozens. No speech, no oath. Recognition is enough. Ordan finally understands the scale of his mistake. The palace thought it was cultivating a key. Instead, it spent months feeding anchors, records, corpses, access, and training opportunities to the exact commander capable of taking the harbor away from them. Their own artifact shipments built his fleet. Their tests taught him the hierarchy. Their corpse chamber revealed vessel-based authority. Their secret archive gave him the crown anchorage. Their transfer brought him directly to the Salt Throne. Every attempt to control him became another plank in the bridge he is now crossing. The Highkeeper reaches for Joran's coffin. Quartermaster, by crown authority, restrain him! Joran's eyes open. For 1 second, the corpse looks at Ordan. Then at Sahir. The gold disc flashes. Joran trembles. Competing commands tear through him. Ordan smiles. See? The throne still outranks you. Sahir looks at his quartermaster. Then he gives no necromantic order at all. He uses the same tone Ronan Voss used before storms. Joran. The corpse stops shaking. Inventory. Joran turns away from Ordan. 43 Blackwake vessels accounted for. Ordan's smile dies. Command crew, waiting. Flagship, restrained. Can you release it? Joran looks toward the chains. No. Can you tell Garen how? A pause. Then the dead quartermaster turns toward the pale Finch. Garen straightens. Yes, there, not brute force, information transfer. The reveal from the Salt Throne becomes tactical. The crowned ring does not merely grant power, it exposes command relationships. Joran knows the restraint architecture because he was trapped inside it. Garen knows fleet organization. Esme knows signaling. Each piece acquired earlier finally connects. Ordan attacks. No more testing. No more manipulation. He slams both palms against the crowned ring. The gold disc shatters intentionally. A wave of authority explodes through the harbor. Every minor ghost vessel freezes. Sahir's 39 ships stop. Even Garen locks in place. Salvek laughs breathlessly. Got him. Then the tiny bronze bell rings. Once. Garen's fingers move. Only 2 inches. Enough to pull one segment of spectral rope. Esme's whistle answers. One lantern flashes. Then a second. The fleet does not move, but the signal continues. 1 flash. 2. 3. A pattern they spent days building without Sahir's direction. Autonomous command. The companion evolution is not finished. But most of its function is already here. Garen cannot break crown authority directly, so he stops trying. He delegates. The Winter Crow's commander receives the signal. That captain passes it to 3 cutters. The cutters pass it to fishing craft. Orders travel around the frozen central hierarchy. Distributed. Redundant. Improvised. Exactly the kind of naval structure the ancient salt throne was never designed to control. One fishing vessel moves, then another. Ordan stares. No, the Saint Aura moves next. Then the King's Needle. Then 11 ships. Then all 39. The crown suppression fractures. Our captain steps toward Orden. You command ranks. Another step. I command crews. The High Keeper tries to pull away from the ring. Sahir grabs his wrist. Below them, Jorn begins shouting restraint coordinates to Garen. Esme translates them into lantern patterns. 3 fast cutters break formation and race toward the morning tide. The first chain anchor comes into view. Massive. Covered in 3-wave seals. Sahir already knows how those seals fail. Identity anchors. Authority links. Break the object carrying the permission, not the chain itself. He learned that against the hostile cutter months ago. The same skill. Larger target. Much larger consequence. Find the command seals. Garen moves. The spectral rope whips across 3 vessels. Dead sailors board the anchor platform. One is torn apart by crown pressure. Another loses an arm. The third finds a gold plate beneath the chain housing. 3 waves. Hollow circle. Sahir gives the order. Break it. The plate shatters. One of the 9 chains restraining the morning tide goes slack. The effect is catastrophic. The flagship's bell rings. Not once. Continuously. The entire hidden sea convulses. Black Wake ships surge forward. The palace guards drop their weapons. Salvek falls backward into the shallow edge of the harbor. Ordan stops fighting Sahir. He is staring at the flagship, terrified. Because after centuries of controlling drowned vessels through borrowed symbols, the keepers are finally witnessing something they have never seen. A ship choosing its captain. The morning tide pulls against the remaining 8 chains. Its dead crew floods onto the deck. Hundreds. Then a figure appears at the wheel, tall, broad-shouldered, old naval coat torn open at the chest. Sahir recognizes him instantly. Bosun Merrick Dane, the man who once broke a mutineer's jaw with a soup ladle. Merrick looks across the impossible distance, sees a 13-year-old desert orphan, then grins, a horrible dead grin. He pounds one fist against the wheel. The Black Wake fleet answers. Sahir turns toward Orden. The High Keeper finally understands that the balance of power has changed. Not tomorrow, not after some future awakening. Now, our captain releases his wrist. Tell the palace the crown anchorage is closed. Ordan stares. You think you've won? No. Sahir looks toward the 8 remaining chains. This is the first anchor. Then he rings Garen's bronze bell again. 39 newly gathered wrecks form around 43 Blackwake vessels. Old fleet. New fleet. 82 ships. Not fully free. Not fully united. But for the first time in more than 13 years, Ronan Voss stands within reach of the navy that made entire kingdoms fear his flag. And beneath the roar of the bells, the second restraint seal begins to crack. The second restraint seal does not break that night. Neither does the third. That is exactly why Sahir stops. High Keeper Orden expects him to keep pushing. Salvik expects rage. The Blackwake dead expect orders. Instead, our captain closes the crowned ring. The hidden harbor becomes quiet. Not peaceful. Just contained. 1 chain has fallen from the morning tide. 8 remain. That is enough for now. A commander who mistakes momentum for permission eventually crashes into something harder than enthusiasm. Sahir has made that mistake before. Once, 37 years ago, in another body, a younger Ronan Voss chased a retreating pirate squadron into reef water because victory looked too easy. He lost 2 masts and 31 men. He never repeats the lesson. So when Ordan stares at him and demands to know why he stopped, Sahir gives the only answer that matters. Because the next anchor is different. The High Keeper looks toward the submerged chains. You can't know that. Sahir points. The first broken restraint lies slack beneath the water. Its command plate is mounted externally, easy to board, easy to identify, easy to destroy once Garen learns the mechanism. The second chain disappears through a stone tower in the drowned layer. No exposed plate, no visible access point. The third divides into 4 smaller restraint lines. The fourth is tied directly into the salt throne. Different architecture. Different solution. Charging all 8 the same way would be embarrassingly stupid. Orden says nothing. He hates that Sahir is correct. That makes 2 of them. Our captain turns toward Joran's coffin. Take him. Salvek immediately objects. He belongs to the crown anchorage. Joran sits upright. The dead quartermaster looks at Salvek, then at Sahir. No. 1 word. Flat. Salvek's face tightens. Sahir almost appreciates the timing. He steps beside the coffin. He comes with me. Ordan finally speaks. To where? The surface. Absolutely not. Sahir looks toward the 43 Blackwake silhouettes beneath the harbor, then toward the 39 vessels now surrounding them. Orden follows his gaze. The argument dies quietly. Sahir leaves with Joran, not because he needs another corpse servant, because for 13 years every memory of the morning tide has existed only inside him. Now someone else remembers. That matters more than he expects. The tannery basement is different after the crowned ring opens. The brine trays no longer feel like isolated windows. They feel connected. One harbor. One chart. When Sahir places the morning tide key beside the tiny manifested bell, faint lines spread across the water surfaces. Route. Command path. Chain position. The fleet network is beginning to map itself. Garen stands aboard the Pale Finch. Esme waits on the King's Needle. Joran appears through the central tray, not as a complete vessel-bound sailor, but as a stable command presence tied to the morning tide key. 3 retainers, 3 functions. Maintenance. Signals. Logistics. Almost an officer corps. Almost. Sahir sits on the floor. He pulls a cracked wooden tray toward him, then starts sorting brass tags. Joran watches. No speech. For several minutes, the only sounds are ceramic scraping stone and water dripping from the damaged ceiling. Then Joran reaches down. His dead hand moves through the boundary enough to point at one tag. Sahir picks it up. A freight token. St. Aura? Joran shakes his head, then points to another. Winter Crow. Again. No. Third tag. Pale Finch. Joran taps twice. Sahir understands. Central relay? The quartermaster nods. Garen turns from the distant deck. Interesting. Joran is reorganizing the formation. Sahir pushes the fleet chart closer. The quartermaster begins indicating positions. Pale Finch center, King's Needle behind. Winter Crow offset left. St. Aura farther back. Not battle formation, command formation. Redundancy. If one relay fails, another carries the order. If one vessel is suppressed by Crown authority, signals can route around it. Exactly what saved them during Orden's attack, but the current version is improvised, messy. Too many manual transitions. Sahir starts correcting it. He moves the tags. Test through tide mark. 1 drop of brine. 3 seconds. The connection opens. Garen receives 1 order. The signal passes to Esme. Esme flashes the Winter Crow. Winter Crow sends 3 cutters. Response time too slow. Sahir closes the connection. Moves 2 tags. Again. Faster. Still inefficient. Again. This time, the signal crosses 7 vessels before the crowned ring's residual pressure can interfere. Better. Our captain repeats the process. No montage, no vague training. Just one mechanism refined over and over. The problem is simple. Tide mark gives Sahir only a few seconds of direct connection. The fleet must continue executing after he disappears. Garen can interpret broad orders. Esme can distribute them. Joran can balance supplies and vessel roles, but none of them can replace command intent. So Sahir creates a system that lets him preload it. He draws 3 circles on a slate. First circle objective. Second, acceptable losses. Third, withdrawal condition. Every order he sends through tide mark now carries all 3. Not merely attack. Attack this anchor. Lose no more than 2 minor vessels. Withdraw if command pressure exceeds the King's Needle relay threshold. Not merely hold. Hold this corridor. Preserve command ships. Abandon cargo craft first. The difference is brutal. Dead sailors no longer wait for Sahir to improvise every decision. They operate inside boundaries he defines. A fleet doctrine, compressed into 3 seconds. Joran watches the slate, then points to a 4th space. Sahir looks at him. What? The quartermaster taps the empty corner. Once. Twice. Garen leaves the wheel of the Pale Finch and walks closer through the drowned connection. Esme turns too. All 3 are waiting. Sahir understands a moment later. Succession. What happens if the captain disappears? He almost ignores it, then stops. That would be ego talking. Ronan Voss already died once. The fleet should not collapse because Sahir believes it cannot happen twice. So he adds the 4th condition, command inheritance. If Sahir's link breaks unexpectedly, Garen takes tactical control. Esme maintains relay authority. Joran preserves formation integrity and supply priorities. No pursuit beyond established range. No attempt to open crown anchors. No rescue operation unless Sahir gives a preloaded emergency mark. The drowned officers react immediately. Garen places 1 hand on the spectral rope. Esme lifts her whistle. Joran straightens. The interface responds quietly, fleet doctrine stabilized, subordinate command succession recognized. Sahir looks at the slate. That is the technique, not a spell. Not a new summon, a structure. Tide mark is no longer merely a short connection method. Combined with the relay network, it becomes a complete remote command doctrine. 3 seconds of contact can now produce minutes of coordinated fleet action. Eventually, maybe hours. At the crowned ring, that difference will decide everything. The second task is Garen. The drowned bosun has been collecting bells for days. Now Sahir understands why. Garen hangs them across the palefinch's damaged mast in precise intervals. 13 bells, different sizes, different pitches. Esme responds to each with lantern combinations. Jorn begins assigning fleet categories to the signals. 1 bell means hold, 2 means turn. A high note followed by a low one means relay loss. 3 rapid strikes mean command pressure. The system becomes more complex. Sahir corrects it once. Then again, Garen rejects the third correction. He actually shakes his head. Our captain stares. The dead boatswain points toward 3 ships, then strikes a bell pattern. Those vessels move. Sahir's suggested pattern would have ordered all 6 vessels in that relay group. Garen's version targets only the forward line. More efficient. Sahir considers it, then nods. Keep yours. The corpse freezes. Just for a moment. Not from system pressure. Something else. Recognition. Garen turns back toward the mast. The spectral rope around his shoulder changes. Its blue markings deepen. 13 small brass rings form along its length, each aligned with a bell. The system gives no full evolution notice. Only a short readout command retainer threshold approaching. Fleet language integration incomplete. There. Preparation. Concrete. Garen is not becoming stronger because of some mysterious aura. He is becoming an officer because he is building a language the dead fleet can obey. Sahir stands. He walks upstairs. The tannery courtyard is quiet. Hadram sits beside a small charcoal stove. For once, no ledger. No contract, no merchant, just a dented iron pot. The smell hits Sahir first. Lentils, cumin, burned onion, too much salt. Hadram looks up. You look terrible. Sahir sits across from him. You cook terribly, then don't eat. Our boy takes the bowl anyway. The lentils are thick enough to hold a spoon upright. A piece of flatbread sits beside them, burned black at one edge. Hadram tears that edge off, hands Sahir the cleaner half. No apology. No sentimental confession. Good, they eat. For several minutes, neither speaks. The charcoal pops. Someone in the dusthouse courtyard laughs at something outside. A donkey kicks a wooden gate. Ordinary sounds. Almost irritatingly ordinary, after an underground harbor full of ghost ships. Hadram finally asks, "Are they going to kill me?" Sahir dips bread into the lentils. "If they plan to do it tonight, you'd already be dead." Comforting. It should be. Hadram looks into the pot. "You really were that captain?" "Yes. The one from the old stories? Probably not the same stories. You had 40 ships? More." Hadram stops chewing. Sahir keeps eating. The overseer eventually asks, "And your crew is still down there?" "Yes." Another silence. Hadram pushes the salt bowl away from Sahir. "You don't need more of that." Our captain looks at him. For 13 years, the man has exploited children, stolen wages, bribed officials, and treated labor contracts like livestock ownership. He is not secretly kind. Sahir has no interest in pretending otherwise. But people are rarely one thing. Hadram has also become the visible shield between Sahir and the palace. He stayed when the hidden harbor opened. He followed the convoy despite being terrified. And now he is worried a boy who smells permanently of seawater is adding too much salt to bad lentils. Humans are inconvenient like that. Sahir finishes the bowl, then slides Hadram a folded document. The overseer opens it. His face changes. "What is this?" "Transfer of the artifact contracts." "To who?" "The Cartographers Guild." Hadram stares. "You want to sell?" "No." Sahir tears one corner from the document. "It's bait." Hadram slowly smiles. There he is. Back to familiar territory. "What do I do?" "Tomorrow morning, complain publicly that the palace has seized too much inventory. And tell Maresh you're considering moving the supply network." "Why?" "Because Salvek will hear about it." Hadram understands. The palace believes it owns the entire artifact pipeline. Threatening to move it forces them to protect the surface network instead of concentrating everything underground. A distraction. Not large enough to expose Sahir. Enough to divide attention. Hadram folds the document. "How much do I ask Maresh for?" Sahir almost smiles. "Too much." Now the overseer looks genuinely pleased. Bonding does not require anyone becoming a better person. Sometimes it is simply two dangerous people finally understanding what the other is useful for. Meanwhile, beneath the first cistern, Highkeeper Ordan is doing exactly what Sahir expects. He has stopped pretending this can be controlled slowly. 6 keepers stand around the crowned ring, Salvek among them. His silver disc has been replaced. The new one is black, higher authority. Temporary, expensive. Orden places 3 command keys into separate sockets. Bone, coral, black iron. The rings activate. "Tomorrow night," he says. Salvek looks toward the morning tide. "And the boy? Bring him. If he refuses," Orden turns. "Then bring the key." That answer tells everyone in the chamber what has changed. Sahir is no longer the preferred asset. He is now optional if they can force the mechanism another way. The old drowned captain from the irrigation tunnel watches through a basin. He does not approve. Orden notices. You served the throne once, the corpse answers. I served the keeper. Ordon's jaw tightens. I am the high keeper. The dead captain looks toward the morning tide. No, that single word turns the room cold. Ordon closes the basin, then orders the final preparations. 6 crown suppression chains are moved into the harbor. 3 sealed corpse companies are awakened. The Blackwake quartermaster's original coffin is reported missing. Salvek is instructed to secure the dust house. And beneath the water, the remaining 8 restraints on the morning tide tighten until the flagship's deck begins to fracture. The opposition is done waiting. So is Sahir. Back at the tannery, our captain completes the final tide mark test. 1 grain of salt. 1 drop of water. 1 touch. The connection opens. Garen waits. Esme waits. Joran waits. Sahir sends no normal order. Instead, he pushes the complete 4-part doctrine through the link. Objective: loss limits, withdrawal conditions. Succession. Then he removes his finger from the water. The connection dies. 1 second, 2, 5, 10. The fleet keeps moving. Palefinch rotates. King's Needle flashes. Winter Crow takes position. 3 cutters split. Saint Aura withdraws exactly according to logistics priority. Garen strikes 2 bells. Esme answers. Joran redirects a damaged transport. No Sahir, no direct command. Still coordinated. 30 seconds. 1 minute. 2. The formation completes the entire maneuver, then returns to holding pattern. Our captain looks at the dry fingertip. There it is. The skill he needs. Not infinite control. Delegated control. The very thing Silas Dre once exploited against Ronan. Ronan trusted the wrong first mate because too much authority rested in one person. Sahir is not repeating that mistake. This time authority is distributed by function. No single subordinate can seize the fleet. No single broken relay can cripple it. No single crown command can freeze everything. The weakness that killed him has become architecture. Garen appears at the edge of the tray. The drowned boatswain removes the spectral rope from his shoulder, then extends it towards Sahir. The 13 brass rings glow, not offering the rope. Showing completion. Esme raises the whistle. Joran places 1 hand over the old Blackwake insignia on his chest. The interface stirs fleet retainer evolution conditions satisfied, final catalyst pending, flagship command recognition. Sahir reads the line once. So Garen's evolution cannot finish aboard the Palefinch. It requires the morning tide. Of course, the bosun has built the network. Now he needs a fleet worthy of commanding. Sahir takes the tiny manifested bell, attaches it to his belt, then packs 3 waxed salt packets into his sleeves. 1 brass whistle, the morning tide key, a folded map of the crown anchorage. No sword, no bone rod, no ceremonial necromancer staff. He needs none of them. Hadram appears at the basement stairs. Royal guards. How many? 20. Salvek? Yes. Sahir stands. Above them, fists hammer against the tannery door. Once. Twice. The 3rd strike splinters wood. Hadram steps aside. Our captain checks the key 1 last time. Then he kicks the hidden brine trays over. Saltwater runs across the basement floor in 24 thin streams. Every route activates. Every relay opens. 39 newer vessels light their lanterns. 43 Blackwake ships answer from beyond the crown restraints. Garen grips his bell rope. Esme raises her whistle. Joran begins counting supplies. Sahir walks upstairs. He opens the tannery door himself. The tannery door opens inward. Keeper Salvek stands on the other side. 20 royal guards fill the alley behind him. Black command disc at his throat. 2 corpse handlers beside him, and 3 salt basin carriers waiting near the rear. This is not an arrest. It is a boarding action. Sahir appreciates the honesty. Royal summons, Salvek says. Hadram appears behind Sahir. At this hour, Salvek does not even look at him. High Keeper Orden requires the boy. Sahir steps outside. No. Every guard tightens. Salvek's expression barely moves. You don't have a choice. Then why are you asking? Silence. Good. The Keeper understands the problem. If the crowned ring could simply take Sahir's authority, they would have done it underground. If the morning tide key alone were enough, Orden would not need him. Everything about tonight proves dependence. Salvek reaches for the black disc. Sahir rings the tiny bronze bell at his belt. 1 soft note. Nothing happens. The guards almost relax. Then every puddle of tannery water turns black. The brine spreading from the basement reaches the courtyard cracks. Thin streams, barely enough to wet sandals. More than enough. Drowned dominion opens across the entire property. Salvek feels it immediately. His disc flashes. Suppress him. The first crown command crashes down. Sahir's vision whites out. His knees hit stone. There it is, the opening blow. Absolute pressure, stronger than anything Ordan used beneath the Salt Throne. The palace came prepared. 3 black discs activate among the corpse handlers. 6 portable basins ignite. The command field stacks. Not one borrowed crown authority. Multiple synchronized channels. Sahir tries to reach the pale finch. Nothing. Garen disappears. Esme disappears. Joran's connection collapses. The courtyard becomes ordinary again, painfully ordinary. Salvik steps forward. I warned him. One guard grabs Sahir. Another twists his arm behind his back. Hadram lunges. A spear shaft catches him across the ribs. He crashes against the wall. Sahir sees blood on his mouth. Something cold moves beneath the captain's ribs. Not panic. Not rage. Recognition. This is what the enemy wanted. Separation. Suppress the fleet. Take the key. Use Sahir only long enough to authenticate the crowned ring. Then remove him. Salvek crouches. Where is it? Sahir says nothing. The key. Nothing. The keeper searches his coat. Finds the salt packets. Throws them away. Finds the brass whistle. Takes it. Finally, his fingers close around the morning tide key. The hidden harbor rings inside Sahir's skull. Salvek smiles. Thank you. Then Hadram laughs. Everyone looks at him. The overseer is still on the ground, blood running from one nostril. Yet somehow, the greedy bastard is laughing. Salvik's eyes narrow. What? Hadram wipes his mouth. Wrong key. The smile vanishes. Sahir turns his head slightly. Interesting. He never told Hadram to say that. Salvek looks down at the brass, then back at Sahir. What did he mean? Our captain answers calmly. He means you should check. Salvek presses the key against his disc. Nothing. Again. Nothing. The keeper's face changes. Replica. Exactly. The real morning tide key has not been on Sahir since afternoon. Joran's physical coffin provided a hiding place no living inspector bothered searching. The quartermaster currently lies in a municipal corpse storage cart registered under Hadram's own contracts. Inside the coffin lining sits the real key. That is why the palace's first attack does not matter. Sahir expected capture. Not because he knew the exact method, because every enemy with superior control eventually attempts disarmament. So the actual objective tonight is not preventing arrest, it is measuring the suppression field. And now the field is showing him everything. 3 source discs, 6 basin amplifiers. Command pressure pulses every 4 seconds. Each pulse lasts slightly under 3. Between pulses, Drowned Dominion returns for less than 1 heartbeat. Tiny gap. Almost useless. Almost. Salvik grabs Sahir by the hair. Where is the real key? Another suppression pulse hits. Pain explodes behind Sahir's eyes. He tastes blood. The guards drag him toward the alley. Our captain lets them. First stage complete. He has taken the blow. Now, he reads, 3 source discs, 4-second rhythm. Basins amplify only inside wet ground. The command signal weakens whenever carriers move. Most importantly, the black discs do not suppress Sahir directly. They suppress routes between him and drowned anchors. Different problem, very different solution. The guards load him into a wagon. Salvik takes the opposite seat. 2 corpse handlers remain outside. The convoy begins moving toward the palace district. Sahir closes his eyes, not to concentrate, to count. 1, 2, 3. Pulse. 1, 2, 3. Pulse. Perfectly consistent. Ancient systems love consistency. Makes administration easier. Makes sabotage easier too. At the 5th intersection, the wagon crosses a dry stone bridge. The basin carriers behind it leave the wet market district. Command pressure weakens. Barely. Enough. Sahir bites the inside of his cheek. Blood touches his tongue. Salt. Not much. Human blood carries less salt than seawater, but Tidemark no longer needs purity. Only similarity. 1 heartbeat. The drowned sea flickers. Garen appears. Sahir sends the 4-part doctrine. Objective disrupt suppression relays. Loss limit none among command vessels. Withdrawal if crown authority exceeds 3 stacked channels. Succession Garen. Connection gone. Salvik sees Sahir's eyes open. What? Nothing. 3 seconds later, one of the rear basin wagons overturns. No spectral ship appears. No dramatic ghost attack. The wheel simply snaps. Because a drowned sailor aboard the Relin reaches through a wet drainage channel and pulls the iron pin connecting its axle. Small vessel. Small action. Huge result. The basin crashes. Saltwater spills. 1 amplification channel dies. Salvik stands. What happened? Second wagon. A lantern flashes beneath a nearby well. Esme's relay. 2 fishing wrecks pull against a submerged chain tied to the street pump. The water main bursts. Royal horses panic. The second basin carrier slams into a wall, another amplifier gone. Salvek finally understands. You can still command. Sahir looks at him. Sometimes. The keeper hits him. Hard. The 13-year-old body takes it badly. His head strikes the wagon wall. Blood runs down his cheek. For the first time in this entire life, Sahir allows something personal into his face. Not because Salvek hurt him, because the man is wearing a command disc built from the system that chained his crew for 13 years. Because Jorn's corpse spent decades in a palace chamber. Because 43 ships remained trapped while people above them drank from cisterns built over their prison. Because the morning tide is close enough that Sahir can almost hear Marek striking the wheel. The coldness remains. But now it has direction. Do that again. Salvek pauses. What? Sahir lifts his head. Do it again. The keeper stares, then realizes this is not bravado. It is permission. That unsettles him more. The third suppression pulse arrives. Weaker now. Sahir catches the gap. Tide mark. 1 second. Cut the moving relays. Gone. Garen acts. No further instruction required. That is the entire point of the doctrine built in the tannery. 2 drowned cutters move beneath Qadira, not through physical streets. Through the drowned layer aligned with old water infrastructure, they do not attack guards, they attack the command network. 1 black disc cracks, then another. Salvik's face goes pale as his own token begins flickering. The convoy reaches the first cistern anyway, too late to stop, not too late to change the battle. Ordan is waiting below. The hidden harbor has been transformed. 6 massive crown chains hang over the salt throne. 3 corpse companies stand on the piers. Hundreds of drowned soldiers, not sailors. Soldiers. They wear armor from different centuries and carry hooked polearms designed to tear identity anchors from ghost crews. The crowned ring burns gold. The remaining 8 restraints on the morning tide are tightened. The flagship's deck has split near the stern. Sahir sees it, and something inside him goes absolutely still. Marek remains at the wheel. Jorn's former station is empty. Blackwake sailors brace against chains biting through the hull. No one leaves their post. Not one. Orden stands at the center platform. You forced this. Sahir is dragged forward. No. He looks around. You prepared it. The High Keeper's jaw tightens. Where is the key? A bell rings from beneath the harbor. Not Garen's. Morning tide. Orden turns. Wrong move. Sahir uses the moment. He spits blood onto the crowned ring. Salt. Water. Identity. Tide mark opens. This time the connection does not last 3 seconds. The crowned ring itself amplifies it. The drowned sea explodes through Sahir. 43 Blackwake ships. 39 newer vessels. Garen. Esme. Joran. All at once. Pain nearly tears him unconscious. Orden smiles. Too much, isn't it? Yes, completely. The High Keeper has finally found a real weakness. Authority without enough vessel hierarchy overloads Sahir. 82 ships. Hundreds of crew. Multiple relay systems. 1 human mind. His knees hit the crowned ring. Orden steps closer. You are a captain pretending to be a sovereign. Maybe. For several seconds, Sahir cannot issue a single order. Crown Corpse companies advance. The first crashes into the Winter Crow. Hooks tear 3, identity anchors loose, dead sailors vanish. Second company boards the King's Needle. Esme is forced away from her signal mast. Third hits the Pale Finch. Garen takes a polearm through the chest. The weapon does no physical damage. Then the hook catches 1 brass ring on his spectral rope. Identity destabilization tears across his body. Garen flickers. Once. Twice. The bell network goes silent. There it is. The enemy's peak. Ordan has learned too. The palace now understands Sahir's distributed command. So it attacks the retainers carrying the distribution itself. Smart. Brutal. Effective. The Blackwake fleet remains chained. The newer vessels begin losing cohesion. Sahir watches 3 ships drift out of formation. Then 5. Then 8. Ordan kneels beside him. Give us the key. No answer. We can preserve the crews. Sahir looks at the morning tide. Marek still holds the wheel. Orden lowers his voice. Your people have already been dead for decades. That line does it. Not rage. Something cleaner. Sahir looks at the High Keeper. They waited. Ordan frowns. What? They waited for their captain. The words are quiet. No grand speech. No philosophy. Just fact. And for the first time, Sahir stops treating the Blackwake dead as resources he needs to recover. They are his crew. Still, that emotional truth changes his next decision. He does not save command capacity, does not preserve the safer formations, does not sacrifice weaker ships first. He opens everything. Full authority. No suppression. No hidden output. The interface behind his eyes burns white, drowned dominion, unrestricted, vessel hierarchy unstable. Sahir accepts it. Then he does not command 82 ships. He commands 3 officers. Garen, the drowning bosun flickers. Take the fleet. Garen looks up. The phrase matters. Not a task. Not a temporary relay. Recognition. Flag-level delegation. The morning tide hears it. Its bell strikes once. Every brass ring along Garen's spectral rope ignites. The 13 bells aboard the Palefinch tear free from the mast. They rise into the drowned water. One by one, they fuse into the rope. Garen's torn deck coat lengthens. Not into armor. Into the dark officer coat of a fleet bosun. A black-blue command sash forms across his chest. The ruined half of his face remains ruined. Good. He does not become prettier. He becomes complete. A new title burns across Sahir's mind. Garen Pell, drowned fleetmaster. Evolution complete. Then Garen pulls the rope once. Every loose vessel snaps back into formation. All of them. 39 newer ships. 43 Blackwake ships answer through the restraints. Even chained, they align. Esme returns to the signal mast. Her whistle screams through every relay. Joran opens the quartermaster network. The system that nearly overloads Sahir redistributes instantly. Command strain drops. Not slightly. Catastrophically. 82 ships now feel like 8. Orden stands. No, Garen rings the first fleet bell. Phase 3 begins. Sahir fires everything. The technique is still tide mark. Same skill first tested through a sailor token. Same method improved with brine trays. Same short command window refined into doctrine. But now the salt throne itself becomes the water surface. The entire hidden harbor is one enormous tide mark. Sahir's blood on the crowned ring acts as identity. The morning tide key, wherever Joran hides it, acts as authentication. Garen acts as distributed tactical command. Esme acts as relay. Joran maintains continuity. One mechanism. Built piece by piece, now scaled to an entire fleet. Second anchor. Garen moves before the sentence finishes. 3 cutters strike the hidden command plate. It breaks. Second chain falls. Third. The 4-part restraint divides. Joran identifies the load-bearing seal. Esme marks it with lanterns. 2 Blackwake boarding ships ram the platform. Third chain collapses. Orden activates crown suppression. Garen routes around it. Fourth anchor. This one is tied directly to the salt throne. Sahir cannot simply break it. He remembers the deeper reveal. The rings are administrative. Authority layers. The palace's power is borrowed, so our captain does not attack the chain. He attacks the permission. Joran. Registry. The quartermaster understands. He opens the crown dead ledger inside the drowned layer. Names burn across stone. Keepers. Vessels. Authority holders. One command identity appears twice. Ronan Voss. Old. Impossible. Yet accepted. Sahir places his bloody palm over the carving. The system reacts. Returning command identity recognized. Conflicting crown administrators detected. Orden's gold authority flickers. The Highkeeper goes white. You can't remove us. Sahir looks at the inscription. Then at Orden. You said this place was yours. He presses harder. It disagrees. Crown administration revoked from one active relay. Ordan's disk explodes. Fourth chain releases. Now the Blackwake fleet moves. Barely, but enough. The morning tide's bow lifts. Marek spins the wheel. 43 chained vessels pull together. Fifth anchor strains. Sixth, seventh. The palace corpse companies swarm Garen. Hundreds of hooked soldiers board the Palefinch. Garen does not duel them. He cuts his own ship loose from the formation, then sends command through the rope before they can seize him. The Winter Crow takes relay, then King's Needle, then 3 cutters. He is no longer a single point to destroy. That is his evolution. Not stronger bones, not a bigger weapon, fleet-scale presence. The system can hit his body. It cannot easily hit his function. Orden finally panics. Destroy the morning tide. Solveig looks at him. Even he hesitates. Do it, crown chains reverse. Instead of restraint, they begin crushing the flagship inward. Wood screams. Marek's wheel splits. Blackwake sailors are thrown across the deck. Sahir sees the stern crack. That is the final mistake. The keepers needed the flagship intact. Now fear has overridden their own objective. Our captain can exploit that. He gives one order. All ships. Tau. Every vessel connects. Spectral ropes launch. 39 newer ships latch onto the Blackwake line. 43 old vessels pull from inside the restraint field. Garen coordinates tension. Esme times the pull. Joran shifts damaged ships out before lines snap. One fleet, one direction. The morning tide moves forward. 6 inches, then a foot. The 5th anchor tears free from stone. 6th follows. The harbor wall cracks. Saltwater erupts through ancient channels. Above Kadira, fountains explode upward. Cistern covers blow open. People across the sleeping capital wake to the smell of the sea. Seventh chain snaps. Only 2 remain. Orden runs, not towards Sahir, toward the final crown control basin. The old drowned captain from the irrigation tunnel appears inside it. Orden slams both hands onto the rim. Stop him! The corpse looks at Sahir, then at the morning tide. For the first time, Sahir understands who he is. Not an enemy captain, a previous keeper, someone who served the throne before Kadira inherited it. The dead man removes the 3-wave insignia from his coat. He drops it into the basin, then crushes it under his heel. Ordan stares. What are you doing? The corpse answers calmly. Returning command. The 8th chain unlocks. No battle. No explosion. Just refusal. The hidden faction chooses not to die for Kadira's control. The High Keeper realizes the institution beneath him has abandoned him. He backs away. 1 chain remains, the oldest. Wrapped directly around the morning tide's keel. No external seal. No crown disc. No administrative plate. Sahir feels its function. Identity lock. The ship cannot be released until its captain takes command from aboard the vessel. Physically impossible. Sahir is standing in Kadira. The morning tide exists mostly in the drowned layer. Then he remembers the tiny bell. An object crossed once. Boundary transfer is possible. If something dead can enter the living world, something living may be able to cross the other direction. Insane. Dangerous. Exactly what remains. Sahir rings Garen's bell. The fleet master responds. Esme marks the flagship. Jorn opens the command path. Every brine channel in the harbor converges beneath Sahir's feet. Tide mark expands. Not 3 seconds. Not a window. A doorway. Orden sees it. No human survives full transfer. Sahir does not answer. He steps forward. Cold water swallows him. For 1 brutal second, there is no air. No desert. No stone. Then boots hit wood. Real wood. Dead wood. Morning tide. Sahir stands on the deck of his flagship. 13-year-old body. Old captain's posture. Hundreds of dead sailors turn. No one speaks. Merrick looks at him from the broken wheel. Jorn appears beside the quarterdeck. Garen crosses from the pale finch along a spectral line. Esme's signal lantern burns in the distance. Sahir walks to the helm. His hand closes around the cracked wheel. The final chain unlocks. Not because of magic, because the captain has returned to his station. The morning tide surges forward. All 9 restraints fall. Every Blackwake vessel lights its lanterns. The sound that follows is absolutely monstrous. 43 war bells, 39 recovered bells. Hundreds more answering from the darkness beyond current range. The drowned sea recognizes a fleet authority it has not held in generations. Orden's remaining command structures collapse. Salvik's black disk turns gray. The corpse companies freeze, then kneel. Not to Sahir personally, to the flagship. That distinction matters. Drowned Dominion completes its current tier. The notification arrives quietly. Flagship command restored. Blackwake fleet integrated. Crown dead authority secured. 82 active vessels. Several hundred subordinate signals detectable beyond established range. Fleet master evolved. Command succession operational. Boundary passage unlocked under flagship conditions. Sahir looks across the morning tide deck. He has won. But victory gives him one immediate choice. Absorb the defeated corpse companies into the fleet, or leave them chained to the broken crown system. Necromancer logic makes the answer obvious. Resources do not remain unused. Joran, the quartermaster turns. Count them. 312 drowned personnel. Vessels, 17 recoverable command-linked hulls. Integrate the sailors who accept fleet law. And the others? Sahir looks toward the dead soldiers still kneeling. Release them. Joran nods. No forced loyalty. Not because Sahir is merciful. Because coerced crews are unreliable crews. Ronan learned that before necromancy ever existed in his hands, the fleet grows anyway. 99 operational vessels after recoverable hulls are attached. Garen begins reorganizing them immediately. Esme establishes signal branches. Joran recalculates supply roles. The conquered system becomes structure. That is how Sahir uses victory. Not with celebration, with logistics. Back in the physical harbor, Orden kneels beside the dead, crowned ring. Not because anyone orders him, because his legs give out. Salvik stands several feet away. His expression is empty. The palace has spent generations controlling fragments of a dead navy. A 13-year-old orphan just takes the entire command mechanism away from them. Then the black water beside the salt throne rises. Sahir steps back into the living harbor, soaked, freezing, bleeding from the mouth, still holding the morning tide's wheel splinter in one hand. Orden looks up. What are you? Sahir glances toward the drowned fleet now visible beneath every inch of harbor water. His answer is simple. The captain. Behind him, 99 dead vessels turn together. And for the first time since Ronan Voss drowned, the morning tide sails without a single chain attached to its hull. By sunrise, Qadira knows something happened beneath the capital. Nobody knows exactly what. That is the important part. Every fountain in the palace district ran black for 7 minutes. 3 sealed wells overflowed with seawater. The first cistern dropped nearly 6 feet and then refilled without a single aquifer channel opening. More than 200 citizens swear they heard ship bells beneath the streets. The Royal Cistern Office calls it a pressure accident. Nobody believes them. The Merchant Cartographers Guild calls it an unprecedented geological event. Nobody believes them either. Hadram calls it an opportunity. That, unfortunately, everyone believes. By mid-morning, the Dusthouse Overseer has already doubled the price of every maritime relic still sitting in his warehouses. Sahir finds him arguing with 2 guild buyers over a crate of broken sailor buckles. You cannot triple the price overnight. Hadram folds his arms. The ocean came out of the street. That doesn't make these valuable. The ocean disagrees. Our captain walks past them. No one stops him now. That is the first visible change. 3 days ago, Sahir Vaughn was a state orphan with a specialist labor designation. Today, royal guards watch him cross the market and step aside. Cistern clerks lower their voices when he enters a room. Undertakers who once sold Hadram drowned effects for copper suddenly send written inventories directly to Sahir. And the first cistern has a new lock. His, not symbolically. Literally. The crowned ring no longer accepts Highkeeper Ordan's authority. It accepts one command identity. Sahir's, or Ronan Voss's. The system appears satisfied with both. The palace is considerably less happy. Ordan survives the battle. That is deliberate. Sahir could have killed him beneath the Salt Throne. Instead, he leaves the Highkeeper alive long enough for the kingdom to discover exactly what he has been doing. The Royal Cistern Office maintained secret corpse companies, confiscated private remains, purchased stolen grave goods, manipulated maritime trade records, and concealed an underground military harbor from 3 successive Kataran dynasties. That last part creates the real problem. The current king was told his family controlled the first cistern. Turns out, his family controlled the stairwell. Everything beneath it belonged to the keepers. That distinction makes palace politics absolutely vicious. Ordan spends his first week under royal detention writing names. Not because Sahir tortures him, because the king does not need encouragement after learning a private bureaucracy has been hiding an undead navy beneath his capital. Every keeper receives a different result. Salvik loses rank first. His black command disc is destroyed publicly inside the cistern office. The corpse handlers he ordered against Sahir testify that he knowingly used confiscated human remains for unauthorized command experiments. The man who once tells Sahir, "You don't have a choice," is given one. Permanent imprisonment beneath the public reservoir, or service maintaining the very civilian waterworks he spent years using as cover. He chooses the waterworks. Sahir approves. Not mercy. Utility. Salvik knows every hidden pipe beneath Qadira. Killing him wastes information. So the former keeper spends his days in plain gray clothing, inspecting sluice gates under armed supervision, while municipal workers who once bowed to him now hand him maintenance lists. He never commands another corpse. Highkeeper Orden receives something worse. The palace strips him of every title but refuses execution. The king wants records, names, foreign contacts, previous keepers, every recovered artifact ever transferred outside Qadira. Ordan possesses nearly 40 years of that information, so he gets a desk, a locked room, 3 royal scribes, and enough ink to ruin the rest of his life. For 12 hours each day, the former Highkeeper reconstructs the institution he once controlled. Every omission is checked against Joran's recovered ledgers. Every lie costs him privileges. Every useful answer lengthens the list of people the palace investigates. Orden once tells Sahir the Salt Throne is larger than he understands. Now he spends his remaining years explaining exactly how large. Appropriate. The unnamed palace buyers tied to the 3-wave faction do not all surrender. 7 flee Qadira before the arrests begin. 2 are caught at the western gate, 1 disappears into the merchant caravans, 4 successfully escape. Sahir does not chase them, yet. A fleet cannot pursue every boat leaving harbor while its own docks are still damaged. The Royal Cistern Office itself is dismantled. The public water management functions remain. They have to. Qadira still needs drinking water more than it needs satisfying conclusions. The Secret Command Division is different. Its bronze doors are removed, its sealed archives become royal property, its corpse chambers are emptied. Bodies with identifiable families are returned. Unclaimed maritime dead receive registry marks instead of chains. And every artifact connected to the drowned sea is transferred into a new archive built beside the hidden harbor, not beneath the palace. Besides Sahir, the king does not like that arrangement. He likes the alternative even less, because everyone who witnesses the morning tide understands one uncomfortable fact. The Desert Kingdom cannot seize drowned dominion. It cannot reproduce Sahir's authority. And it definitely cannot fight 99 ghost vessels beneath its own water supply without turning Qadira into a very expensive salt lake. So negotiations begin. This time Sahir is not represented by Hadram. That almost offends the man. Almost. The meeting takes place in the First Cistern's upper administrative hall. King Samir Qadir arrives with 6 ministers. Maresh Anvar represents the Cartographers Guild. 2 military officers attend. Hadrim somehow convinces someone that artifact suppliers require a seat. Nobody admits giving him permission. He sits anyway. Sahir takes the final chair. Not at the end. At the center of the table. The king studies him. You are 13, so I've been told. One minister coughs. Hadram stares at the ceiling to hide a smile. The king continues. You command a fleet beneath my capital. Currently, there are other waters. That silences the room. Good. They begin with jurisdiction. Qadira wants the hidden harbor recognized as sovereign territory. Sahir agrees. The king visibly relaxes. Then our captain adds the condition. Physical harbor. Not drowned command space. That belongs to no living kingdom. Argument. 2 hours. 3 ministers threaten legal seizure. Sahir asks them which statute governs 99 dead vessels occupying a parallel maritime layer beneath prehistoric infrastructure. That ends the legal section quickly. Next comes water. The Salt Throne's damaged systems connect to several ancient aquifers. Sahir could close them. He does not. Qadira would suffer. Thousands of ordinary people had nothing to do with Orden. Punishing them would accomplish nothing. Instead, Joran maps the channels. Royal engineers repair them. Salvek supervises under guard. Within 4 days, water pressure across the southern district actually improves. That single result changes public opinion faster than every rumor combined. The strange, salt-smelling orphan did not drain the city. He fixed 3 old cisterns. People understand water. They do not understand necromantic command law. So the practical result wins. Then comes money. Recovered drowned cargo belongs to Sahir's fleet until ownership can be established. If the original owner, family, guild, or state still exists, claims may be filed. Ancient unclaimed cargo is split between recovery operations and Qadiran harbor maintenance. Maresh loves this arrangement so much he immediately requests exclusive cataloging rights. Sahir refuses. The guild deputy looks wounded. Why? Because exclusivity is how this mess started. Hadrim raises one hand. Can I have exclusivity? No. Had to ask. Finally, military authority. This is where the king stops smiling. Your ships cannot enter Qadiran wells without permission. Agreed. The ministers exchange looks. Too easy. Then Sahir continues. Unless hostile drowned vessels enter first, the king considers. Define hostile. Anything attempting to command living infrastructure, seize drowned anchors, damage aquifers, or interfere with registered dead. One military officer leans forward. You've already written rules, Joran did. 43 pages. Our captain slides the document across the table. The officer reads the first page, then the second. His expression changes. This is not a boy making demands. It is maritime law, chain of command, salvage procedure, identity anchor protections, civilian water zone restrictions, rules for corpse recovery, limits on forced undead integration, emergency authority, reporting channels. Everything Ronan Voss learned from 30 years of command rebuilt for an ocean no living admiral knows exists. The king closes the document. What do you call this authority? Sahir answers without hesitation. The Blackwake Anchorage, not kingdom, not empire, not throne. Anchorage, a place ships return to, a command structure, a harbor with rules. The name spreads within a day. And for the first time in centuries, the Salt Throne stops being a secret institution. Its original name remains inside old records. The living administration above it becomes the Blackwake Anchorage. Sahir holds command authority. Qadira holds physical sovereignty. The cartographers catalog recovered routes. Royal engineers maintain water systems. Hadram handles salvage procurement under enough inspection to make him complain constantly. A stable arrangement, not a friendly one. Better, friendship is not required for functioning ports. Garen Pell receives the first official station. Fleetmaster, not because the system grants the title, because Sahir writes it into Blackwake law. The Palefinch is repaired as far as drowned timber allows. Its broken mast remains. Garen refuses replacement. Instead, 13 bells hang from a new crossbeam. Every vessel in the 99-ship fleet recognizes their patterns. When Garen pulls the rope, cutters turn before Sahir speaks. Supply craft reposition, patrol vessels spread. The dead boatswain who once needed detailed orders now controls fleet movement across multiple command lines. He still says almost nothing. Apparently, evolution does not improve conversation. Esme Vale becomes signal officer of the anchorage. The King's Needle remains her vessel. Its lantern mast is rebuilt using materials recovered from 6 wrecks. She coordinates living bells in the physical harbor with drowned lantern patterns below. For the first time, Qadiran engineers can request Ghost Fleet assistance without performing a necromantic ritual. 3 bell strikes at the first cistern, 2 blue lanterns below, a registered signal. Very practical, very strange. Joran Hale returns to the morning tide. His coffin is no longer needed. Once the flagship crosses fully into Sahir's command structure, the quartermaster's identity stabilizes aboard his original station. He spends the first day inventorying everything. Of course he does. Sahir boards through the salt throne and finds him standing inside the lower hold. Rows of crates line the walls. Some date from Ronan's final voyage. Joran points at 3. Personal effects. Sahir opens the first. Old coat. Ruined. Second. Charts. Mostly destroyed. Third. A saber. Ronan's. The blade is black with seawater staining. The leather grip has almost disintegrated. Sahir lifts it, too large for his current body. Joran watches. Our captain sets it back down. Store it. The quartermaster nods. No dramatic reclamation. No need. A 13-year-old carrying an adult naval saber would look ridiculous. More importantly, Sahir no longer needs an object to prove whose deck he stands on. Merrick Dane repairs the morning tide's wheel. Badly. Sahir tells him so. The dead bosun grins. Exactly the same grin he wore after every questionable repair during Ronan's first life. For a moment, the deck is almost ordinary. Canvas snapping, timber creaking, crew moving. Joran shouting inventory counts. Garen's bells somewhere beyond the port side. Then Sahir notices the silence at one particular station. First mate's position. Empty. Silas Dre. The crew has not forgotten either. Neither has Sahir. But vengeance no longer controls the entire horizon. Silas is one unfinished matter among several. That is a much healthier tactical position. Hadram's punishment is simpler. He keeps the dust house. He also keeps every child currently registered there, but the labor contracts are abolished. Sahir does not deliver a speech about exploitation. He changes the accounting. Children awakened into specialist classes receive their wages directly. Ordinary labor receives daily pay. Food allocations are inspected by the city. Hadram receives a management percentage. He complains for 3 straight days. Then discovers he still makes plenty of money because the Blackwake salvage network has turned his old warehouse system into one of the busiest artifact exchanges in Qadira. The complaining becomes quieter. One evening, Sahir returns to the dust house courtyard. Same charcoal stove. Same dented pot. Hadram is eating lentils again. Sahir sits. The overseer pushes a bowl across the table. Less salt this time. Better. Hadram looks offended. That is the nicest thing you've ever said to me. It wasn't praise. Close enough. 3 younger children race through the courtyard carrying wooden ships. One has painted his black. Another insists hers is faster because it has 6 sails. The third has attached bones to the sides and keeps yelling that it is a necromancer battleship. Sahir watches them crash all 3 into a water barrel. Hadram sighs. Your influence. Clearly your supervision. The barrel tips. Both move their feet before the water reaches them. Progress. Above the city, life settles. Markets reopen. Water flows. The palace stops stationing troops outside the first cistern. Merchant caravans begin advertising Blackwake certified maritime antiques, most of which are completely fake. Sahir confiscates the ones carrying forged command marks. The rest are harmless. Maresh starts publishing recovered historical charts under joint guild supervision. Several lost coastal routes are confirmed. One missing reef chain is mapped. A wreck recovered beneath Damus Reach contains medicinal glassware that modern alchemists thought extinct. The drowned sea begins changing the living economy without a single ghost ship appearing publicly, exactly how Sahir prefers it. Power works best when logistics carry most of the weight. Then the morning tide sails for the first time beyond Qadira's submerged boundary. Not far, 1 patrol route. Garen takes the forward formation. Esme maintains relay. Joran handles recovery capacity. 20 ships accompany the flagship. The rest remain at the anchorage. Sahir stands at the wheel. The Dead Sea stretches ahead. No chains, no palace command. No first mate whispering about trade routes. Just black water and thousands of distant wreck signals. For 30 years in his first life, Ronan Voss believed the surface ocean was enormous. He had been wrong. The world beneath it is larger, much larger, and now he finally has a harbor from which to explore it. The patrol returns without conflict. That matters. The current arc is over. Qadira remains standing. The keepers no longer control the crowned ring. The Blackwake fleet is free. The morning tide has its captain. Garen, Esme, Joran, Marek, Hadrim, and the people tangled into Sahir's second life all have places in the new order. No hidden enemy suddenly rises from beneath the deck to erase the victory. No chain mysteriously reappears. The fleet is free. That part is real. But freedom creates new routes, and new routes create new problems. The first arrives inside Orden's reconstructed archive. Sahir spends an afternoon reviewing the former High Keeper's recovered transfer ledgers. Most entries concern artifacts, keys, coins, bones, command seals. Then one column repeats across different centuries. Outbound authority transfer, not cargo. Authority. Several transfers leave Qadira. One goes to a western port state. Two go north. Another appears beside a destination Sahir knows from Ronan's old charts. Grey Cape. The site of one of his most famous battles. Sahir places the Morning Tide key beside the ledger, then circles 3 names. The Salt Throne did not exist only beneath Qadira. Other command stations may still survive, and at least 4 escaped members of the 3-wave network know the anchorage has changed hands. He closes the ledger. Does not chase them today. Instead, he assigns Maresh to verify old Grey Cape salvage records. One question from the deeper reveal remains open. Who built the Salt Throne network in the first place? Qadira inherited it. Ordan did not create it. The ancient Keeper records predate the kingdom, and somehow Ronan Voss appears in those records centuries before his birth. That puzzle goes into a locked investigation cabinet beneath the anchorage office, not forgotten, contained. The second development reaches Sahir through Joran. The quartermaster requests him aboard the Morning Tide after midnight. No emergency signal, no fleet alarm, just a logistics flag. Sahir crosses. Joran waits in the captain's cabin beside a newly opened compartment. Inside rests a water-damaged crew ledger from Ronan's final voyage. Most names are marked dead, some are marked recovered. One is marked neither, Silas Dre. Beside the name sits a notation written in Joran's old hand. T-Ransford before total loss. Sahir reads it twice. Silas did not drown with the Morning Tide. Someone removed him before the ship entered the drowned network. Where? No location. Only a transfer code. The code matches one destination in Orden's archive, Grey Cape. There it is. Not proof that Silas survives, not even proof that his remains do. But proof the betrayal did not end where Ronan thought it did. Sahir tears a small copy of the entry, folds it, places it into the Grey Cape file. No revenge oath, no clenched fist speech, just another route added to the chart. The third change comes from the flagship itself. At dawn, while the Morning Tide sits inside the Black Wake anchorage, a quiet chime passes through Sahir's command link. Not a level up, not a combat skill, a navigation function. One section of the drowned sea chart illuminates beyond established fleet range. The location lies west of Qadira, past Damas Reach, past the desert frontier, toward the real coast. The system identifies it only as an unresolved crown route. Then Garen rings 2 bells. Departure-ready formation. Esme answers from the King's Needle. Joran places fresh recovery manifests on Sahir's desk. Marek has already repaired the wheel badly enough to offend him again. Hadrim arrives at the anchorage entrance, carrying 3 invoices and complaining that naval expansion is ruining his sleep. Everything is functioning, which means the next move can finally be chosen instead of forced. Sahir unfolds a living world map. He places Qadira at the center, marks Damas Reach, marks Grey Cape, then draws one line all the way toward the western coast, the same coast Ronan Voss once ruled for 30 years. This time, he will reach it from beneath. Our captain closes the archive cabinet, takes the Morning Tide key, then walks down the first cistern stairs toward the hidden harbor. The captain of the Blackwake anchorage does not need to ask whether his fleet is ready. 99 bells answer before he reaches the water, and on the chart beside the helm, the route to Grey Cape is already marked.